his stuff and it said like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and I was like, all right, now I know. I didn't know if it's like 4 hours, like Gypsy Tales, some of those, or like a Joe Rogan.
Yeah, we were talking about it, and I said to Dan, they've got to get like a toilet break and something in between there, because come on, I said, I'm not the type of person who can sit for 4 hours. Like, I can talk, but like, I need a break.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you up for toilet, by the way?
Yeah, I should be sweet.
Yeah, sweet.
Okay.
Because sometimes I've had literally like guests turn up and they
stuff
they
up,
sit
though.
down. Yeah, true. They sit down. They're like, "Oh, shouldn't I go to?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck, we went into a conversation."
I know, but then we stuffed up. We should have said that at the start, but we were so excited, and then we just trot down here, and then they're like, "I need the toilet," thinking it's somewhere around here, and we're like, "Oh crap, hang on."
By the way, I just ordered that Prime drink. You know the Prime, Logan Paul.
Yeah.
I'm full into like Brooke always. She's
gosh.
like, stop ordering shit off the internet, like like that new stuff. So I saw it today, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for Prime to come in, and I'm like, oh.
You've been obsessed with Impulsive. That's
I've been
why. That's
because I'm obsessed with like Logan Paul because he's done his podcast and stuff like that. Yeah.
I've seen stuff on social media, but I honestly don't follow a lot of it. Like, even you guys would know when you're done doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
you're just like, I still need to be Dan and Brooke as well.
Yeah.
Like, I need to like step away from, like, I need to live life as well. You got stuff to do.
Yeah.
And when I see like Sprintcar podcasts and stuff pop up, unless I'm like, I really like that guy or really am interested to hear what they're talking about. If it's just like, and you know, it could be with mine even, you know, unless it's something that's, you know, if it's just, we interviewed this guy on the weekend, it was like, unless something crazy happened with him lately, I'll be like, I just don't have time. And that's my own thing, you know, as well. I can't just interview someone for the sake of it. I need to have an angle, and I've seen it with some of your titles and stuff, and that's what I try and do. I interviewed Sheldon Hordenshield in, I forget, was it December, January? I can't even remember. I think it was December. And I needed to put it at an angle that was, people want to click on this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you just say like interview with Sheldon Hordenshield, it's like, you know, a couple thousand views. And then the way I marketed it was like, got like 30,000 plus views in a week. And I was like, all right, that's worthwhile, you know, without it being clickbait.
Yeah. It's interesting though that you've had like these guys that you're interviewing now, that you raced them back in like a Parramatta. Do they have they come back to here and been like, what's the whole sprint car scene like now with Parramatta gone? Like, because I know most of them are now just like Brad Sweet went to the WA team. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, did they ever talk to you because now Parramatta's disappeared and you're like essential to Parramatta back then, or not really, or did they just move on?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of drivers, I guess, wonder what's going on. Yeah. A lot of people are out of the loop as well. You know, they would have seen on social media. That's the beauty of social media, I guess, that things have kind of been explained for them, but it's a bit hard for them. A lot of the American drivers coming over rely on those tracks to be around, especially we don't have tracks everywhere all over the country, so they're usually based somewhere. So Carson Macedo may be based at Parramatta. So for that track to be taken away, it's like, hey, that's a place where I earn my income. What's going on with that? So, but I mean, and then obviously the locals and stuff like that all know what's going on for the most part, I guess. Doesn't
Sean Dyson have two? Does he have two teams? Does he have a California team and a Sydney-based team, or is that just like a one-off thing that he did with?
I think it's changed over the years. He did a one-off thing once with that he was involved with I think. Was it Willie Kane? I forget. He was part of a deal over there. He's he's pretty tight with the Tarleton. So Tarleton's are in California. Tommy Tarleton and his old man, Tom Tarleton, they've got this huge black workshop in California. And it looks like the Batcave or something like that. And it's sick. Like, they've got some cool gear, and they're obviously very wealthy. Yeah. And Carson's mum is the relation to the Tarletons. I'll get it wrong. I have had it explained to me before, but basically Carson is related to the Tarletons, both Carson and Cole. So that's the connection there. But ever since Carson came over and raced, I raced in California in 2015 and met Carson, and then he came over at the end of 15 to race. And the deal that he was part of kind of fell apart halfway through him racing here. Yeah. From memory. And then that's how Sean got involved with Carson. And then ever since then, Sean and Carson have been very tight. Yeah. And Sean's obviously tight with the Tarletons as well. So that's how.
What was the team that Carson was trying to get with before, though, in Australia? Do you know?
In Australia?
Yeah.
It was a Queensland-based team. It had actually a sponsor of mine in the end, Eagle silicon ignition leads. They're in Penrith.
Yeah.
You probably
I remember that on
maybe
your car, yeah.
Yeah, you would have seen some of their stuff. Well, it was funny because I met Carson in California in 2015 when I raced there, and I said, hey, man, if you're coming out, obviously he'd won an outlaw race the year before, and I said, hey, if you're coming out, let me know, like, someone offers you a ride or something, and I'd love to, like, say, yeah, that's really good, or hey, step away from that, don't get involved. And I remember he messaged me on one of the social media platforms and said, hey, these guys contacted me and sent me a photo, and I'm like, I can see that photo is from Parramatta. Yeah. And I've never seen that car in my life. Like, I don't even...
With Dyson's car?
No. It was the original car he was getting into. And I was like, man, I actually can't believe I've never noticed this car. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know what to say to you, but
it was kind of like a start and park kind of car, was it?
Just like I don't know. I think they hadn't done a lot of racing. Yeah, it was a Queensland-based car. I don't want to speak out of school of who it was or whatever, but I was like, man, I wish I could help you out because I offered, but I couldn't really. But he did come over and race with them, and I think for whatever reason it just didn't work out. It wasn't going great, but I think it was just smarter to get into something else. And then Sean was around at the time. I think this is how it worked out. And again, I don't know the exact story, but I think by the end of it, Carson was actually racing, I think, Sean's car while he was over here. He'd actually messaged me and said, hey, do you have a car maybe I could drive while I'm over here and stuff? And I was like, honestly, we've got gear, but we're not set up to have a second car right now and all that sort of stuff. So... I mean, that I don't begrudge like him asking because I mean that's what drivers do. They're gonna need to be racing and get into something while they're here. Yeah.
Oh, Brooke and I were watching the Classic the other week when you were there. Yeah. Like I was trying to explain the Americans and the Australians, like in the way. Who won the Classic? Just kind of a bit of a mental blank.
Who won the Classic?
Hallett.
Brock Hallett, that's it. I was going to say Brad Hallett. Yeah, Brock Hallett won, and it was you were talking about Sheldon Hordenchild. That's what I was thinking in my head. Yeah. And the way he won, like it's just you were taking like videos and like media all before that race, like how they dug up the track. And Brooke was like, "Are you sure it's all good? Does that normally happen though? Like at most tracks for like a big event, like the Knoxville Nationals, will they dig up the track and then go again?"
Oh yeah. It's prepping the track. Like the track is clay. Yeah. Obviously, there's different types of surfaces and additives that are in the racetrack, but there's so many factors. This is a lot of what we talk about on Sprintcar Hub and when I'm at the track. If I'm doing commentary and stuff, is there are so many factors with speedway racing that contribute to the track changing over the period of just a single night. Yeah, you've got how many cars are on the racetrack, the quality of cars, the types of classes. You've got the weather, like wind, the sunlight, how long sun is out there, like how the temperature, obviously, humidity, what they've done to prepare the racetrack. So basically, throughout the night, you just know you're going to lose moisture at the very start of an Australian season and the very end. It's obviously cold because you're bookending what is the summer months, and you're getting and it's a lot colder around the winter period. So the track's not wearing out as much. But in the middle of January, or when the Classic's on, is literally the middle of summer. Yeah, and you're at a town in Warrnambool which has a lot of wind coming off the ocean, a bit close, like you guys are, a little bit to the ocean.
Oh, so it's like it's near the ocean. I had no idea.
Warrnambool's right near the water there. So I mean, it's a town that's on the water. So the track itself is a little bit away, but it's in a town that's on the water, a bit like you guys again, where you're situated here. But all those factors majorly influence how the track changes, and it happens at every racetrack. Usually, you shouldn't have to work the racetrack, but in those extreme conditions, like there's a lot of cars, a lot of wind, a lot of heat. 3 nights of racing, so back-to-back nights of racing, wearing out the racetrack.
Sorry, are they close enough as well that the salt hits from the ocean, the tracks, it impacts it at all? Or is it, it's just more winds?
One thing they get down there, the wind, I mean, it's not something that people talk about a lot, the wind, but it's something that I like to bring up because you can tell that majorly influences how the track evolves throughout the night. And they get, one thing they talk about is sea mist. Yeah. Kick on. It's just like really light rain that they get. Yeah. And it's just forever a thing in Warrnambool that like will have a delay in Warrnambool, and you're like, all right, it's the sea mist again that the commentators kind of have a bit of a joke about. But So that is totally normal that they have to work the track during the night. If they don't work the track packs down so hard and all the moisture is taken out of the racetrack that you've then got this hard surface, and then you've got the cars going out on there and what we call laying rubber, and the rubber actually sticks to the racetrack. So the tyre tread, the blocks completely worn off, the tyres are down to their canvas and go bald. And then you've got all this rubber on top of this hard, it looks like an asphalt racetrack, really.
Yeah, okay.
And you'll walk out there. I remember as a kid walking out and I was like tap on the ground and I'm like, oh, once all the dirt's gone, it's just a road base.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
It's just a layer of rubber down. And basically the racing is terrible then when you lay rubber. You can't pass. It's a bit of a
Is that why they all go down to the bottom?
Yeah, so basically as you're wearing a groove into the racetrack or a layer of rubber, and the car becomes driving just like a go-kart. You just drive with the front and keep it as straight as possible. Yeah. And reduce wheel spin. The tyres are getting hot, so then obviously the tyres are getting worn down. You've got the wear on the tyres, and that's when guys start to blow tyres, like rip them apart. So that's also an issue. So basically what they're doing is you would have seen, it would have been a really late night. Did you watch the whole classic?
Yeah, we watched the whole classic.
Yeah, till what was it, 2, 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
So it's addictive. You can't stop. So you're there.
Brooke's more addicted to what you do. You know what I mean? Where can you get more sprint car people on than Speedway people? Because it's just
so much fun.
It's also like, in a way, in the motorsport scene, to the tar people, it's kind of like an untapped market. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, it's so interesting. Like what I was wrapped with is like when it was on national TV with, before the national title at Perth. Do you know what I mean?
Plus and that.
Yeah. Well, that was great. I thought that was great. And back in the day when you were racing and your brother was racing, it was on like Fox Sports with David Tapp and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what brought me to sprint car racing. Do you know what I mean?
Man, sprint car racing is so cool.
Yeah.
That it just needs to be shown. Really.
Yeah.
It's like, you see, you're interested in supercars and NASCAR and all that sort of stuff because it's there, shoved in front of your face. Sprint car racing's like this best kept secret. Trust me, it's awesome, man. And there's so much, like, explaining all this stuff to me is way more interesting than, I guess, these guys who are racing on tar. And again, no offense or anything like that, but it's like, I guess they're all kind of wanting to get to that next level if they're not already there. Yeah. And it's like, when you talk to sprint car guys, they're already there. Yeah. They're already involved. Yeah. They're not, I guess, I don't know, bitter about it. Yeah. They're happy to talk about sprint car racing.
See, for me, I always wanted to be a sprint car. That's why I came to Parramatta Speedway all the time, just on my own.
I remember seeing you there a lot.
I was like addicted to it. Yeah, that's pretty much why. But my parents, because Jeff's like a Porsche racer and stuff like that, they've always been like a tar person. And I did the legend car for a bit too. But I wanted to do sprint cars, but I just didn't have like the facilities and the, like, because I live in the city. Do you know what I mean? Like, for you, for a sprint car team, for anyone who's trying to get in it, you more so need like either to lease a ride, or how do you actually get involved in like this?
There's literally nothing stopping you from getting into a sprint car. If you want to race a sprint car tomorrow night, either of you, you could.
Yeah, right.
And it's kind of a good and a bad thing. I love about sprint car racing that a 16-year-old kid in his first ever drive in a sprint car could be racing against 60-year-old Steve Kinzer. Yeah. In a heat race, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that is the coolest thing ever. I think of any sport, you're not going to get, I don't know, some kid, 16-year-old in a go-kart race against some Formula One star.
The only time you'll get that is in Formula Ford. So when Dan raced at Bathurst 12-hour, there was the 16-year-old kids who were winning it. Yep. But then there was like Richard Tarling from the UK, and he's been at the top of the game in F3 and that, but he's raced with Jenson Button and all those guys. Yeah. In the UK, the Formula Fords, like your F1 drivers will come back and race all of those guys, but it's big in the UK, we find, and elsewhere,
Formula
but not
Ford
here.
Over in the UK, because they don't have sprint cars, is kind of their, I guess, their alternative version.
It's this category that's getting pushed away, which is ridiculous, because that's where they learn the craft to go to supercars. Yeah. Or that would only be the only thing that's close to sprint cars.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The only big difference there, I would say, is that that's guys kind of coming back to their roots.
Yeah.
When sprint car racing is literally the guy in his prime.
Yeah. Yes.
In the class and the car and the race that he's paid to win that weekend.
Yeah.
You know, that is, that's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
And a kid that's, doing it for the first time. There's nothing stopping those guys racing together. Yeah. And it's a good and a bad thing, you know. So it's races can get pretty hairy.
Does the Kinses help because of Michaela help Marcus and Matt, or Marcus anyway? Do they help at all, or just in the American scene when he goes over there?
I think when Michaela goes over to the States to, I think she's still with Craig Kinzer, then it just makes sense that if Marcus or Matt or whoever's, from her family's racing, if they're around or doing the same races, then it's pretty normal. Like, they'll share some equipment or a shop or something like that. So I think that's kind of just how that works. I know when they were, for example, the merchandise trailer, Marcus was obviously this past season the current Australian Sprint Car champion. So it was cool that all of his merchandise could be sold at the racetrack. I remember at Knoxville, we actually put some of our Sprint Car Hub decal packs at Craig Kinzer's trailer, and Marcus's and stuff was being sold with Craig's at, because Michaela sells all that stuff at the trailer. So little things like that, the logistics of it all just make it so much simpler. Yeah.
Do you reckon having like your stuff at the track helps like distribute your brand now, like to get like more subscribers and stuff like that, like being at the track, like us being at the 12 hour, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Being at the events, I guess doing clips or whatever content on a current event obviously helps on social media. If it's something like, if I spoke about the classic this weekend, you'd be like, hey, that was like a month ago. I don't care about it anymore. You know what I mean? So being there in the moment, doing stuff, and again, what Sprintcar Hub was all about, or is all about, is providing unique content. I saw who won. I saw this. I saw that. Go ask a question or show me some footage or get some content of something unique that we didn't get in the broadcast. So that's what that's about. So being a part of the event for sure, but also we have a lot of promotional stuff that a bit like you're a team of two from what I know. Where I got my buddy Matt that helps me, and we're
so
really
it's just you two.
Yeah, and we're, as much as people, I get a lot of comments, great job by your team or something. And you're like, there's us. It's like we just showed you the entire team. There'll be a photo of us too, and you're like, nah, it's just me and my buddy. So that's honestly the biggest problem. You guys might find that. Maybe imagine a lot of what you're doing was actually going to events. Yeah, you would probably find that you need more help on the day, whereas if it's this podcast and it's going to go out in a week or two, you're like, hey, we can, between two of us, it's all good. Like I do the videos at home by myself when I'm interviewing someone online, and that's all done by me because I can get it out that night, and I have done that, or I can get it out in a week's time or something like that. That's okay.
So you don't feel like the anxiety to come through to push it out as fast as possible?
Oh, I definitely want to.
Oh,
but
okay.
I think you've got to, that's all about marketing as well. So if I did an interview on a Monday or a Tuesday, whether it's the morning with an American or a Tuesday night with an Aussie guy or something, is that night going to be the ideal time to put it out, or can I build up some hype about it? Again, I like to do a little bit of maybe a promo about it and go, get people interested and think, I've got to check this out when it goes out. Yeah. I might do a little bit of a teaser clip. Maybe, again, we spoke about when I interviewed Sheldon Hordenshield, there's a half an hour interview or something, a 20-minute interview in there. So I just snipped up, I did, I think, maybe a little promo that's like a reel or a TikTok video sort of thing that gets people knowing, hey, this is coming up. Yeah. And it will be a little soundbite of, hey, that's really interesting. I'm going to make sure I check that out. And then I might put a 4-minute clip out on YouTube, because people don't always want to click on the 45-minute video. Yeah. So if you've just got something shortened up, again, this is way more content probably for your producer.
That's what we do. Well, we've got the same thing. Like season 3 now is going to be, which everyone is probably, they'll see the episode before yours, but you've got a full 2-hour episode on YouTube, the full thing, because everyone's been crying for that, because it's always been on, on all the podcast platforms, so it's there. But then from that is reduced 3 like sort of highlight clips, we call them, which are like 7 or 8 minutes long, and then reels come down from those. So it's like this step down process each time.
So much content. Hey, like if it was just make a video and put it out, then I remember I was just listening to Stu's podcast with you guys that there's just so much more that goes into it, that to make it all happen. And at the end of the day, you're trying to squeeze the most out of it. If you've got the content there, it's up to you and that computer to make it happen. So
Brooke's pretty good. Brooke's pretty good at making all that content. I basically host it now, and Brooke just like makes it look. Shit looks mad, doesn't it?
I wish, really, honestly, I've seen some of your stuff pop up, and I'm just like, when you asked me to do this, I was like, of course again, because like, you know, the effort I could see just from a clip of you talking to someone, you know, the audio, the switching of, you know, putting it out, understanding what it's about. You know, you guys, you can see the effort that you guys are putting in. I'm like, of course I need to
come on here.
Contribute, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's the same we see in yours. Like I said to Dan, like you said, of being at live events, we've only done it like two Bathurst events, but ours weren't at the time content. It was, the first one was, it was like the next day we kind of came home and raced out and got it. This next one was a little bit more stalled. But yeah, your content, because it's a different style to ours, I was like, oh, holy crap, all the stuff you must have to have at the event, the equipment. And like you were even saying before, having to have the storage space on certain things, internet to get it all up there when you don't have internet access. It's just, there's so many little bits and pieces that not everyone knows that you've got to have there or even thinks about. Yeah.
You would have realize the organization for that one event is completely different to doing this.
Yes,
You're like, okay, how are we getting in? Like, are we allowed to do what we're doing? You know, what's this going to take? We need to book flights. You know, if we're flying all over Australia and the States. And want to do more. I'd love to go to New Zealand, by the way, but all those sort of things. Like, are we good? Who are we going to film with? Are they going to say yes? You know, are they going to let us put a camera on the car? If it's windy, what do we do about the audio? What's the weather like the day before? Like, if we know it's going to rain, should we really go? Like, it's a lot of money. You know, is this an interesting video? Is there something more interesting that we could have done from home that week that will get more views? Because at the end of the day, especially when you're trying to grow, you're like, I need to have the views to make it worthwhile. I can't take that to sponsors if I don't have views. So I've got to be smart about how these early stages are so, and I know you said season 3, but I guess we're a similar sort of period, but it really is important to make smart decisions about all that. But yeah, going to the racetrack, as much as I love doing that, I also hate doing it because it's so much more work to make happen. I go to Queensland tomorrow to go to Toowoomba. We're actually meant to be filming with Brody Kostecki. So so that'll be pretty cool. But
ask if he wants to come on.
I will.
Hey, I didn't realise that did he jump into Speedway, did he?
He's doing Sprintcars like Van Gisbergen and
I was about to say, because he just recently left Supercars, right?
Well, he just did the test day and he would have gone up to Toowoomba.
Oh, he's still racing. Sorry, I was getting the Kostecki's mixed up.
There's 3 of them. There's only one race.
My bad.
Don't worry. I think people assume that I know everything about Speedway and Sprintcar racing.
Yeah.
You'll probably find some questions doing this that I'm just like, I just don't have the answer for you. Like, I really don't know because it's so hard to be across absolutely everything. I'm not going to pretend I know all the drivers and like, you know, Brody that well, but all of a sudden for this event, I've got to be like, okay, can we put a camera on his car? Is his team cool with it? Are they interesting or are they boring as batshit? You know what I mean?
We've got the same problems. That's so interesting to hear that. That's what people might not know because not everyone wants to number one interview, but some people just aren't good at interviewing. And it's just, and that's the fair thing because you're athletes. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. And then we've started to use the events as a little bit of a taste test to go and talk to someone and see how they respond. And you might have seen that too. Perfect. Because we were like, oh, Toby would know. He talks to these people too.
Honestly, if there's someone I can help you out with to say, hey, we want to have them on, and it's just their makeup, you know. And I would hate for them to be putting it on for me. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to show who they are and tell a story about how they go racing. That's what I'm doing. And I don't want that to be fake. I did a video. We went to Mount Gambier the night before the Classic. So we were talking before about how big the Classic was for me. Well, imagine racing a couple of hours away the night before and it finishes late. Well, we filmed with Luke Dillon. And this is just an example that comes to mind. This isn't just him or anything like that. But he was they're more than happy to put a camera on the car, follow us around, do whatever. I'll talk to camera. But I interviewed him and he's just a bit flat. And you're like, that's it? Like, you know, like, that's not interesting. But that's him. And I love that was him. And when I put that out, I'm not saying it's great, but I'm like I might say, oh, you know, can you expand on it? You know, I guess that's asking a little bit of him. But honestly, it's like, hey, if that's you and that's how you go racing, I want the people to watch that and go, oh, that Luke Dillon's a quiet guy, but when he gets on the track, he's a gasser, you know?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's them. When someone's eccentric and goes off and talks for 10 minutes, I mean, other than trying to fit that into a video, it's like, hey, that's you. Like Brooke Tatnell will talk to you for like, his answers will be like a couple minutes long, like how was your night? You know,
he's, you know what surprises me? He's so passionate all these years gone on. You know what I mean?
Brooke's such a good dude. Like honestly, I'm not gonna say I know him that well, although our families, I mean, he's a Sydney guy.
Yeah.
But you know, he'll talk to me. He'll give me all the time of day. He's just like, those people are so good for the sport. And that's one thing that, probably getting a bit off topic, but something that really frustrates me. Like Luke Dillon won a lot of races, successful guy from South Australia, great sprint car racer. He was running third at the Australian title the other week for, you know, like he's a gasser.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's him, that's great, but he's not hurting the sport. That's just, you know. And then you got Brooke Tatnell, who's the first guy you'd ring up to be like, hey, we need to do this. I mean, he's an older guy now, I guess. 40s or 50s. But
Max is retired and he's still going. That's what I'm still shocked by. Oh, is Max retired?
Max hasn't really retired.
Okay.
I don't think officially, but I think he kind of has.
Yeah.
Maybe he just didn't like the fanfare, so he just let it kind of die. I really don't know. Again, but last time I spoke to him, I don't think he hadn't really retired, but it's been a year or two since he raced. So there's that. But yeah, that's one thing. That's what I was going to say before. Is it really frustrates me that you don't have to be awesome for the sport, but just don't be bad for the sport.
Yeah.
You know, don't be against the media. And to be perfectly honest, there are a couple of drivers and people in our sport, and I guess they're everywhere. And again, that's also who they are.
Yeah.
But when it's like, hey, we're trying to make this worthwhile for you, you don't have to do anything. Just let us ask you a question, or just, you know, I don't care if you want to play the villain or whatever, but let us like actually show that, so that we can grow what you're doing. What if no one watches what you're doing? All of a sudden, this sport isn't what it is anymore. So just be open to that, and that's why I really, really do. I love and appreciate the way that Brooke goes about racing as a whole, not just in the car, but obviously outside it.
Yeah. Have you had your camera on Matt Dumsney yet, or not?
No, so again,
he's polarized. He's a bit of a polarizing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's characteristic.
Yeah, 100%. You know, that they're great to be interviewed. Both Marcus and Matt, the ones currently racing. I've never had them say no, I don't want to be interviewed. Yep. They're totally cool with that. I obviously show different sides. Like if you have a great night and I show that, then you're stoked. If you have a night where you just mouthed off at someone and I caught it, and I show again. I might not show all of it. I'll show a piece of it. Yeah. It's like, because I got to fit it into a video. It's like, all of a sudden you're like, that Toby, man, he's an asshole. Like, why would he do that to me? Do you know what I mean? And you're like, man, I'm not doing anything intentional to you. I'm showing what happened at the racetrack. Yeah. So it's like, Dan, I don't have a problem with you, but it's like, that's you. But there's those sort of things you got to balance. But getting back to the Dumsneys, they just don't like cameras on the car. And they're not the only ones, by the way. Like, it's almost... Is Brock Hallett another one or not really? No, I've had camera on his car. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that a while ago, I've had him a few times, actually. At I know at Eastern Creek, I've been on his car. I think the first night ever at Eastern Creek, I think I was on his car. Could be wrong. Might have been another one. He, for me, watching Sprintcar, like as you know, I've been a Sprintcar fan for ages. He's just come out of the woodwork and just, you know what I mean? Like, he just came on and just kind of hit his strides. So he's been around. He raced, I think it was Formula 500s for years, and then came into sprint car racing, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, he's just a guy kind of stepping up. And that's what I've said in my videos, especially after the Classic wrapping up, was he's put in the hard yards. Like, they've got, again, every team that's successful has got some sort of a backing. Like, it costs money to go racing, you know. But they've put in just as much effort as what they have money and that. Yeah. And he's just chipped away. And honestly, for the last year or so, like, we've only started doing at-track videos since December a year ago. So what's that? Not even 15 months. And any races that we've been to that he's been at, he's just been chipping away. And then this entire, I think at the end of last season, I was like, man, that guy's, you know, coming on. He's sniffing around. And then this whole year, every race he's been to, he's been one of the most consistent guys. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was probably a bit of a shock to see him win the Classic, but look at all the results. You got Cody Morosky wins at Toowoomba. You've got Jock that won the week before at Archerfield. Then we go down south, and McFadden's winning at Mount Gambier, and then you just can never pick. That's sprint car racing.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it though.
You're not going to turn on, like, it's like turning on supercars and like Shane Van Gisbergen wins 90% of the races. And
I know, I agree with you. I 100% agree.
This is the easiest way to criticize, I guess. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to prove is that sprint car racing is so unpredictable. I love just about everything about sprint car racing. There's a lot of stuff that I don't like, but that can be changed. But man, I love that sprint car racing. You just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no sport like it. Honestly, the only other motorsport I can think that is like sprint car racing as far as like the entertainment and unpredictability. Is that a word? Unpredictable?
Yeah, it's a word.
I'm getting mixed up. But honestly, it's probably MotoGP.
Yeah.
Like you can turn that on and be like,
yeah.
Marquez just won by like 10 seconds. That wasn't that great. And then like the next week, you're like, he ran 5th, and they were just dicing around everywhere. You just never know.
Yeah.
And that's what the big aim for Sprint Car Hub is, to be like, every race is awesome. Let me show you what happened.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're just two guys, and we decide to follow one or two guys that night. Yeah. And what we show of, one driver of 50 drivers that night. Imagine what is actually going on at the racetrack.
Yeah. What made you just like, when you retired, was it 2018 or 19, or when did you retire with the injury, your eye injury?
Yeah, so...
Because you tried to come back too, didn't you, at one stage? Like you were hoping to get cleared.
Yeah, 100%. So you've done a little bit of research, I guess. But I my last season was 2017. So I raced for 7 seasons all up.
Yep. You're fresh out of go-karts too when you did your first one,
yeah,
didn't you?
straight into sprint car racing. That was, you spoke about Formula Ford, and I guess it's Formula 4 now.
Yeah, Formula Ford. Yeah, it's Formula Ford. Yeah.
So that was the thing. Like, you either went from go-karts to the asphalt route, or you went to, not many went to Speedway. And we're a Speedway racing family. I was like, again, I wanted to be the 16-year-old that races against Steve Kinzer. You know what I mean? Like it didn't, like, so many other guys went that route, and I raced with, Chaz, Mostert and Scott McLaughlin and Cam Waters and all that sort of stuff. But it just never interested me to go to what they were doing. So, no, I went to sprint car racing, raced for 7 years. Had a couple of month stints that I raced in California, which was pretty cool. And then during basically the last couple of years, I've always suffered from like eye problems.
Okay.
My vision's never been good. I started kindergarten with glasses. I wear a contact now. Yeah. My right eye. But around 2016, I actually...
Is it a family thing though with your eyes, or is it just more so?
I think, how many people wear glasses and contacts these days?
Oh, yep. I'm wearing them right.
You know what I mean? Like it's honestly, it's just for whatever reason, people probably notice that my brother and I wear glasses. But I had problems with my eyes that I've always kind of put in the back of my mind for forever, all the way through school. There was a period where I didn't want to wear glasses. I couldn't even read the whiteboard, chalkboard or whatever at school, copying off kids next to you and stuff like that. But I didn't want to wear glasses, and then obviously I need to wear glasses. And then I had a couple of crashes actually that are on the internet.
In sprint cars?
Yeah. I had one that really...
the big flip into the fence, one?
Yeah, I had one that went into the fence with Jackson Delamont I got in contact with, and then I went to hospital that night. There was a few times I went to hospital, but that night I remember I got out of the car and I was pretty, shaken up, like, dazed. And then I remember I couldn't even read my phone. Like, I was like it was too blurry for me to read. And was it that night? No, there was another crash as well. I think I drove to the racetrack. I drove the transporter to the racetrack, and I was like, "Hey guys, I can't drive home here. Like, my eyes are no good. They come good within a day or something." But there was basically around 2016. I think it was January 2016. It was my eyes. Basically, I got glaucoma at some period where basically it's what like a 60-year-old would get. Yeah, okay. It's your eyes are deteriorating, and I'd get high pressure. And to get a little bit technical, because I'm young, and my immune system works well, the the pressure in my eyes for whatever reason would build up, and there's not much that they could do about it. I was having like pretty heavy medication daily to bring the pressure in my eyes down.
Yep.
And it was the side effects of that was making me really drowsy and lethargic.
Yeah.
So I have a full-time job as a fitter and machinist, and I'd be at work and like, you know, just absolutely rooted, like so tired. And then it was like go racing on the weekend, and this medication, not that I really have told a lot of people, but you're not meant to have when you go racing. And I'm racing a, you know, 900 horsepower sprint car.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing here? You know, so I'm either in pain. It was like having a migraine in your eye. Like it was that painful, and your eyes, my vision was like pulsating. Like imagine, it was like looking at
while you're driving, so you're getting that G-force too.
Well, just like if the medication wasn't doing its thing, so I realized, well, if I'm going to go racing, I can't take this medication. So I would taper off it for the weekend to go racing.
Yep.
And this was around a period of my career that around 15, 16, that like I was kind of coming on pretty strong and getting some good results.
Yeah, that's when you podiumed with your brother, didn't you? Was that around that time?
Yeah, that was I think 2014 or 15 was there was a couple of podiums I had with Roddy.
Yeah.
There was one in like 2013. 20 the end of Boxing Day 2012.
Yeah.
As actually just over, I think I'm getting the dates right. It's just over 10 years ago.
Yeah. I'll find that footage on the internet.
Yeah. 10 years ago that I was on a podium with Roddy, and then there was another time with Jamie Veal in 2014 or something, which was a season opener. But they're pretty cool moments to get a podium with your brother. But I was coming on pretty strong where like I was feeling good in the car and having good results, and then I had these eye problems at the same time. And again, I don't want it to be like a sad story or anything like that, but it kind of sucked at the time. I remember it was January 2016. That was my second last year. So you got to remember this Speedway racing calendar is like cricket. During the summer months, and January obviously being the busiest period. Personally, it wasn't great. My girlfriend and I had just broken up in January, and then I remember having to go to that weekend was the Scott Darley Challenge.
Yeah.
So like it was
I
like
missed that race, by the way.
It was the busiest period of the year.
Yeah.
So I was struggling with my vision has never been great, although I wore glasses, and even then my vision isn't great with glasses.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not like you put glasses on and maybe it's perfect. It's really it's not. And so again, putting that in the back of my mind, my girlfriend and I broke up, wasn't really in a great, frame of mind. And then we had the Scott Darley Challenge. I ran 4th that weekend with like around 100 cars or something like that.
Yeah.
Brad Sweet ran 5th. That's
Yep.
probably the best way to put it. It was a great night.
Yeah.
And then we had the Classic the next weekend. I got quick time there. And then the next, there was a midweek race. Then there was the next weekend was the Australian title. So what we just had the other week at Perth was in Warrnambool. It's in Warrnambool next year too. And I ran 11th out of like 110 cars. So again, great. But there's actually a photo of me getting introduced to the crowd and I'm waving. And you can just see my eye. It's like red as. And I look like, I've just been in a fight or something.
Yeah.
And it was just the problems with my eyes. And
during this time, did any of your family or anyone in your team and that you were running know what you were going through?
Oh, yeah. Everyone knew what I was like going through.
Did they knew that you were on the medication as well and everything?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It was called Diamox. So it's meant to bring you, and like I wasn't having like, a little bit to help. It was like I was having like, I think it was like 4 of these tablets a day or something and that's what the doctor wanted me to. It was basically like, imagine having extreme doses of Panadol for a headache, and then you're like, all right, now I need to take the next thing because this isn't doing its job.
I was going to say for Mersendol, I've got endometriosis, so like the things like Mersendol and these other really heavy tablets they can give you that I've had over the years, different things they've given. I know, and it knocks the shit out of you. Yeah, that's what. Was anyone ever concerned about you racing? With this?
Yeah. So I mean, for me though, it was always up to me. To do what I wanted to do. And I guess as I've gotten older, not that I definitely don't care about racing less, but got more realistic with things. So no, they were like, you sure, sort of thing, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm going racing. Like it was basically move everything around to go racing. There was even in my last season of racing, I had a crash at Parramatta off turn 4 where I broke my collarbone, and we still I drove in the truck with the other one of the other guys down to South Australia that weekend
to still race
and ran terrible. But I was like, I'm here, like I'm going racing, So no, I honestly, not to sound like a stroger, but I genuinely, dedicated to go racing and put everything into it. But yeah, the eye problems, to finish up, I ran 11th at the Sprintcar title. Again, great event, but I was really struggling with my eyes. I put it in kind of two different boxes. There's the vision, and then there's your health. Yeah. So the vision wasn't great, but it wasn't any real worse than it was ever going to be. It was just the health of my eye was actually like, hey, you need to do something about it here. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to have major problems. Yeah. So it was, I think...
Could you potentially go blind in that eye though?
Or yeah. Okay. So they were saying like your retina can detach and stuff, and basically you've lost all your vision. So it was I went to the specialist, which I've always seen specialists for the last 20-something years. Different specialists moving around the city and stuff. But it was a few days after that I saw the specialist, and he was like, you need to have surgery like ASAP. And I think it was 2 weeks later after my last race that I had my first eye surgery, where they put a hole in your eye to basically drain the fluid to relieve the pressure.
Yeah, okay.
And that was huge. And then I think I did a couple of races maybe at the end of that season. And then to wrap up, or to fast track, I guess, I raced the next season. And
what year was this?
So that was 2016. So then the next season would have been 16, 17.
Yep.
And I raced that, and we weren't as strong. Obviously, I'm, still having eye problems, but I had the surgery, and it was like, it's all good. But almost a year to the day, I had to have the surgery again. And
2018 was that?
I know that would have been 2017. Yeah,
okay,
so February 2017.
Yep.
And then I think it was I finished that season. No, I didn't race much towards the end of that season. I don't think I raced again, actually. I might have done 1 or 2 races. And then there was actually there was one race at Parramatta where it was too hot to go racing. I don't know if you ever remember that.
I think I do.
Sprintcar racing gets rained out, right?
Yeah, I can see
weather.
it, yep.
But it was like March 2017, I think. And it was 50 degrees that day.
Ooh.
And the Friday, we actually had a guy.
That was Scott Darley, wasn't it, or not?
No. It was a very... it was obviously stupidly hot, but we had a guy coming to help me that weekend who's a very well-known crew chief within Sprintcar racing.
Yep.
And we had him coming up on the Friday from where he lived down south, and I picked him up from the airport, and while he was in the air, they had cancelled the racing for the Saturday night. And no. That was the last couple of weekends of the season.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to just try and kind of sort out some of our problems and finish off strong. And our next race was that was the end of the season, so we were going to race in Darwin in August. And I remember, I never raced again was what I'm getting at, but I remember going to, we were planning to go to Darwin, and we were working out what it was going to cost and the logistics of it all. And I remember just having to explain to my parents and everyone on the team that hey, I actually can't really see that well anymore. And my vision, basically the health of my eye was okay, but it wasn't clearing up as a I guess a bit of a compromise was my vision was a little bit blurrier. And I was like, hey, I can't actually see that well here. And then I had to have the same surgery again, very similar anyway, the next February. So 3 Februaries in a row I had this surgery where they put
on the same eye.
Yeah,
wow.
And then I also had cataract surgery in the June, where they take out your lens and put a artificial lens in your eye.
Wow.
So I've had 4 surgeries on my eye. That was the other thing, was because my immune system works well, this hole that they put in your eye to drain the fluid, imagine it like an orifice to slowly drain over time, to keep it at that pressure. This is the best way I know it is. I know this is probably getting a little boring too, but basically,
it's not.
my immune system works so well that the scar tissue would want to heal up my eye and block the hole. So every time they were doing a surgery was to basically clear it up. Yeah, again, if a 60-year-old has this surgery, well, then it's like one and done as far as I know. But it was like causing a problem for me because it's kind of healthy, So, that's probably the best detail I've ever explained, kind of everything that's happened and why I stopped racing. But my eyes affected me my whole racing career or my whole life.
Even back in go-karts when we were racing together?
Yeah,
right.
Sure. I think I won one of my last go-kart races in Albury was the week before I got glasses again, which would have been 2009 or something. And I knew I needed glasses, but I just was a kid and I was like, I was like a teenager and I didn't want to be the kid with the glasses, I guess. But I've always had problems with my eyes. Like I said, I started kindergarten with glasses. And again, even when I wear glasses or contacts, my vision still isn't 20/20. It's just a lot better than
what it was,
what it would be without. So,
did you do dirt karts and sprint?
So I raced dirt karts from when I was like 7 to 12.
Yep.
And just pretty much locally, there was a track in Penrith,
Nepean,
and Gosford, and honestly, that was all great. And I remember coming to race asphalt karts. And just getting my ass kicked. I raced a couple of times on asphalt karts throughout that from when I was 7 to 12 and just couldn't grasp it. Like I was used to going sideways and stuff. And I was doing fine in dirt karts and honestly winning most of the time between our little club championships and stuff. But as for going to asphalt karts, it's just a totally different ball game.
Did your brother suggest that and your dad?
Or no, it was just me. Honestly, it sounds, again, I don't want to sound like a stroker, but at the time it was like, all right, I'm doing this and I'm doing well. And it's like, okay, but I'd really like to do this other thing that people keep talking about and seems really competitive, a lot more numbers, a lot more racetracks. My brother and
Christian, they did CRK together.
Yeah, they had all race, and I never really, again, I'd done a couple. I did, I got my license at Eastern Creek. I'd practice every now and then at Eastern Creek on asphalt, but I never actually really, other than maybe a couple of races, and they didn't go well, And I remember it was 20, from when I was 7 to 12, so I'm trying to think what years they were.
I had to pick you and Darcy up and to go to Port Macquarie once too.
So I remember that. So 2007, I decide, hey, I'm not going to race dirt karts anymore. We'll race asphalt karts. And if you're going to do it, you need to like really hone in on the skills that it takes to do that.
Yeah.
And I remember showing up. It was pretty much my first race of doing that, and it was the Australian Sprint Kart Championships at Eastern Creek.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I remember there was a 46 kart field, and you need to make the top 40 to make it into the final.
Yeah.
And this is my local track, like the only track I've ever raced at, basically. Yeah. On asphalt. So it was like, if I'm gonna make it, it's like it should be at Eastern Creek. And I think I ended up, I was like so much slower. And I ended up being 41st. So I didn't make the final.
Oh, just
so to give it perspective and some context of kind of what I was dealing with, it was like, you're not like nowhere near. This is the best case scenario where I should go the best. If I didn't go good here, I wasn't going to go good anywhere else. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So then just stuck it out and raced karts, kind of on asphalt for as long as I could, and we got some wins. And
you honed in on it towards the end. Didn't you have Andy help you out?
Or? I had a bunch of different people help me out in the few years that I did it, because I would have been 12, 13 by that time. So I only raced on asphalt karts for maybe 3 years, 2 or 3 years, and by the end of it, the end of 2009, so what's that? A good 2.5 years later, we had the same race, but the Rotax Nationals at Eastern Creek, and I ran 5th.
Yeah, right.
So again, to give it a bit of context, it was like from a period where I was like nowhere to then racing, I guess, a much faster kart a couple of years later. with the same kids and stuff. I'd moved forward a lot, but not long after that, it was like my focus was to look at going to sprint car racing.
Did you ever see your dad race, or just your
I
brother?
definitely did, yeah, but I don't really remember it.
Okay.
I know that there's kind of like vague memories that I almost like made up in my head. You know what I mean?
That's
Like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
I've got little memories of maybe walking up to the hill at Parramatta.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're so young, you don't even know what's going on. But
do you remember his car in his shop, not you and your brother's car? Like, do you remember when he had his? Okay.
No.
So you were too young by then. So your
Yeah, I
brother
think people think that's kind of like sad or something, but I'm like, well, it is what it is. Like,
yeah.
It's like I was too young. So, no, I know my brother definitely would. He's 5 years older. But no, that's it's kind of, I guess, a little bit sad. But no, we definitely had a lot of sprint cars and race cars around the shop anyway to not really worry too much.
But your dad, but like being like who he is, did he get you? Did he make you just basically fall in love with sprint cars? Do you know what I mean? Like, because in the old 60 Minutes interview that I've watched, he was kind of like you back in the day. Like, he just loved it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Dad's come from a really different life from when he was younger. Like, my dad grew up with like no money whatsoever, living in housing commission and stuff like that, and built a business with his trade of being a panel beater and a spray painter over the years. And I don't think he raced until he was well into his 30s. Yeah, started racing. So to kind of get to where he was a big thing. So then when we started racing, it was like, we didn't have to do that. We were already, into racing. We raced karts. Like, the idea of my dad racing a go-kart when he was a kid, like, are you kidding? So he didn't have nothing, he didn't have, from what he says, he didn't have hot water or a TV, or a car to,
right.
So different, totally different growing up lifestyle. But yeah, no, Dad definitely got us into racing. He loves it. But there was no forcing of doing it. It was just like, if you want to do it, let's do it. And it's only crazy now when you're older, you actually realize how much time and effort and money to do this stuff takes. And to think that my parents had a business to run, and I'm one of 6 kids. I got 4 sisters and my brother. And then, the time I wanted to race, you got to remember, he's 5.5 years older. So when I wanted to race asphalt karts and go everywhere, every weekend, my brother had just started racing, sprint cars around that time. So it was just like such a hectic time, and we certainly didn't go without. So it's only, again, I still love racing, but I'm a bit more realistic now to realize, hey, like, this takes a lot out of a lot of different people, not just yourself wanting to do something. So yeah.
I realised that when I won the Formula 4 Championship last year, doing it as a privateer with Barton Moore. Like, we basically, in hindsight, it was a bit like sprint car racing. Like, it's a bit backyard and club racing and stuff like that. And I realised that last year. I was like, I've got to make this time count, because I just left a big team in Formula 4 to go to a small team. And I basically thought, this is the most time I'm going to get on the track, and I've got to make it work, type of thing. So I understand from your point of view what you've dealt with, to like now realizing all these years on, like, because we're a lot more older, what it takes to get all that stuff to the track and move around. And having, your brother race sprint cars where you were go-karting, I've seen that from your dad's point of view. That would have been like nuts. Do you know what I mean? Like,
running a business and just, this is so much. I don't care who you are, whether you've had an easier, I guess, upbringing, if you want to call it that, with financially, or the logistics of it all, where you grew up. I mean, there's no doubt that anyone who's been successful has put in a lot of work. Like, it's not easy at all. I think of how I think the best way to put it is, I think of how guys from Sydney or Australia would love to make a career in the States, and then you've got guys who literally grow up in the States to go racing. Like, how to race over there is an accomplishment, to be, I guess, worthy, or to make it to a period where it makes sense to go racing over there. Some guys grow up at the races that you dream of going to. So everyone starts from a totally different area. I remember my first night in a sprint car, just totally mind blown of what it takes to drive one of these cars. Your legs look like sausages, because you're strapped in so tight into a sprint car, because if something goes wrong, you're in trouble. And you want to give yourself the best opportunity to survive, I guess. And the speed, I remember having to back off to see the checkered flag to say, hey, that's the end of your session.
Yeah, right.
Everything's just blurry. The straights feel like they're from me to you long.
Yeah.
It's just incredible what a sprint car takes to drive around. And I remember driving it for the first time and thinking, there's no way that I'll ever get a handle on this. Imagine driving at night and imagine with 23 other cars around and slide jobs and passing and ruts and coming into contact with them and dust flying around and pulling tear-offs. Man, like there's so much that goes into it. And I'm just thinking like there's no way you could ever get used to something like this. So getting back to what I was saying is you got to understand where people come from. I remember not having a handle on things at all. And at the end of the day, after, a few years and to get the results and stuff that I did, I wasn't winning, championships or big races or anything like that. But you're like, I'm pretty proud of where I started and where I ended up.
Considering like your circumstances, like you were saying, like you were racing Jamie Veal and all those guys, and you were up there at Parramatta.
Sprintcar racing, man. Like that's what I was saying before. If they turn up, you got to beat them. Like
so that's it. You had things working against you though. They had some people you're competing against have got full health, full everything, and you've got an extra challenge. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't want it to sound like a sob story either. Like,
no, I get that. Yeah,
I'm got great health other than my eyes. That's probably the best way.
Like, but see, that's inspirational to others who might be thinking, oh, I've got this or that. That's going to knock me out, or making excuses. There's things without putting themselves in danger saying this, but it gives people that way to say, yeah, shit, hang on, I can do this. I don't have to totally give up.
Oh, no, for sure. And that's why a lot of people, I guess, don't know about, because I didn't even want to think of it as an excuse for me.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be like, hey, like I'm that guy who's got a problem turning up.
But Dan did the same with autism. He held that back from everyone because he thought he was going to get kicked out if they knew. Yeah,
it's life. Like honestly, it's you know what I mean. Everyone's got something going on. That's the other thing. Don't think that all these guys, no one's got problems and it's just you that does.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you also got to be realistic as well. And it's funny because anyone I talk to about, I've spoken with a lot of drivers and stuff about it, and they're like, honestly, man, like once your eyes go, like, it's not even a question that you can't do this. So I think, when other people start to understand kind of what I was dealing with, and there's other guys again with eye problems and stuff, but I can't possibly have good vision, like I said, even with glasses and contacts, I just can't. That's not what my problem is,
Yeah.
How did you come back to making that call and saying, okay, shit, I can't do this anymore? Because that wouldn't have been easy.
I remember being at work one day, and it'd been a little period of time where it was the off season, and again we were planning to go to race in Darwin. Yeah, it's not cheap. Like it was going to cost like tens of thousands of dollars to go racing, and it was like we're about to book everything, and I was just like, I need to get kind of something off my chest here. And it was like, I don't want to say what I have to say. But I remember sending a message to mum and dad, like in a group message, just kind of spilling my heart out, saying, hey, like, I hate to let you down. And there's a lot of sponsors and stuff involved. And I was involved with like doing a lot of that with Valvoline and Hog's Breath. Yeah. And, you
had a full professional team
like
going
we were, like there was I put as much as I could into it. I would go to the gym or, we had a guy working full time for us. And again, we were going hard out with it, and there's a lot of other people that do, but it was a lot to kind of, a lot invested as well. We just got a big transporter, and where our shop was completely set up with it all and spare parts and engines. And I mean, this shit's not cheap, to just go, hey, no, I can't go racing, So that's why I was fully committed, and everyone else around me knew how committed I was. So it just made everything pretty easy to, I guess, invest in. Yeah. So to then go, oh yeah, but I can't, it was very difficult there's probably one thing about me that maybe people don't know is I don't feel guilty so much for myself. I hate letting people down though. Like even being 10 minutes late to this, I'm like, man, you'd hate that. You know what I mean? So, or, cancelling on someone or doing the wrong thing by someone, I just need to kind of look after people. So to have sponsors and, there's so much organising and emails and phone calls and nights in the race shop preparing the cars, and I was like OCD about getting stuff ready, whether it was our car or our transporter, you know, washing, you know, just everything needed to be mint, and to put that pressure on myself and then I guess pass on to everyone else as well is such a difficult thing. So, but honestly, once I sent a message to my mum and dad to say, hey, like, because that's how our team set up, was a family-owned team, was I felt better because it was the right thing to do. And very difficult to accept, and that was the first time I've really ever made a call that like I can't go racing. It wasn't a choice; it was a you can't. And it was funny because we were planning to come back to racing, like you spoke about earlier, and we'd built the cars up, and we actually went with a different paint scheme and did all this stuff. And
so it was ready to go with a new paint scheme.
Like the next year, like we were going to go racing, like, and that was again. I was like, no, like everything's going to kind of come good. Because I had another surgery and stuff, and it just never came good. And this was like, so I'd never raced. Like I had missed races, and we were planning to go racing again. And then I had another surgery, and it was like, oh, this will fix things up. And we had everything ready to go, and I just never raced again.
Never materialized.
So just never worked out. But that was what I was going to say, was I actually went to get my medical. So to race a sprint car, you need a medical.
Yep.
I think there's only one, maybe midgets or speed cars that you need to have a medical every year. I think every other class is like every 2 years at most or something like that. So it's an AA license for a sprint car in Australia. America, they don't even worry about licenses. But yeah, I remember having to go get the medical. I'm like, I'll get my license nice and early, so that way when I do go racing, that's all done. And I went to the doctor, and again, my health is perfectly fine. It's not even a question sort of thing. And then it came to the eye test, the vision, and it was like, he's like, man, I can't pass you for that. And I'm like, oh no, I understand my vision's not good now, but if you can just like sign it off and be like, it'll be, when it comes good, we're all sweet. And he's like, no, I can't, like, I guess there's me being a little bit immature or not realistic about it, was like, this is the one thing that I can't help, no one else can help, and you can't fix. So that was, that's literally the one reason. I'd go racing tomorrow night if I could, if my eyes were good. So
have you when you had to sell everything, is people in the sprint car scene, is people keen to buy the next like lot of gear, or is it hard to sell? So, I don't even know what it's like. In
our case, we held on to everything. So again, this is maybe being unrealistic, but I mean, I had so many good people around me, and no one better than my parents to say, don't worry, like we'll hold on to it as long as we have to go racing. My dad said, hey, do you want to put someone in the car and we can go racing, and you can run
bit like a
team.
Mick Seller type of thing.
I guess.
Well, he still races himself, but
and, you can do that, and that can be a little baby to go racing and that. And honestly, again, I was so dedicated that I was like, I can't think of anyone that I would want to drive our car that would care as much.
Yeah, okay.
You could get someone come in and come wreck it and be like, sorry, see ya.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't sit well with me. And not that I didn't wreck, don't worry about that. But it, I also, if I was going to put someone in our car, I thought I'd want it someone who could really do with the opportunity.
Yep.
And I couldn't think of a young guy who probably went to the gym like I did, and spent nights on the shock dyno and preparing his car, and just living, eating, breathing, just the only thing you think about, racing and appreciate it like I did. And I'm not saying there isn't, but I just couldn't really think of,
anyone dedicated enough.
And I was like, you know what, I just rather it kind of sit there. And it was cool that it sat there we kept it for 2 years.
Yeah, right. You kept all
everything. We didn't sell. Actually, I think the only thing we sold was one guy that's been on your episode is Sam Walsh.
Yep.
We had a massive 48.
Yeah, keep going.
We had a massive 48-foot transporter.
Yep.
And we had a shock dyno in that, and we had a shock dyno that I had used for years sitting in the shop, and we didn't need to.
Yep.
And the only thing we sold was the one of the shock dynos to Sam Walsh.
Yeah, right.
And everything else we kept, there's a lot of money sitting there. And after 2 years, I guess it took that period for when we would talk about it every now and then. It was kind of like just sitting there. I remember like it was weird almost, like just our stuff sitting out the back, just not doing anything. And then it was also the smarter choice to be like, hey, this stuff's going to start aging. You know, not that sprint car racing, it's not Formula One. It's not going to evolve next week, you know, and it's useless. But it made sense to go, hey, we need to think about doing something about this. And I was actually totally cool with it. The only thing I didn't enjoy, because I sold, again, another area that I would do is look after, is selling all our stuff that we wouldn't have or wouldn't need anymore after each season. And dealing with every prick that's like, oh, how much for this? Or can I have another photo? Or, you know, this or that. Or how about this much? You know, I just didn't want to sell everything that way because we had so much. Like, honestly, there was 2 complete cars, like, you know, and then we had spare engines and other chassis and then all our parts inventory, whether it's in the shop or in the trailer. Like, it was a full-blown team.
Why did Roddy decide to give it up? Did he just, was it family more thing?
He was a little bit different.
Yeah, okay.
Roddy, so...
Like, we'll get him on later, but
yeah. He didn't have a family at the time, but he kind of fell out of love with it as far as going racing. I was totally not cool with it, but I realised the dedication it took to be competitive.
Yep.
And I think Roddy was just a bit over it. And, I mean, it's not something that we've really spoken about, but I get the impression that maybe I would say he was a little bit over it before I started racing, but I think that would definitely have added to it. Like, 1 car is a lot of work, and 2 cars feels like it's 3.
Yeah.
It's so much. Like, to get 1 car ready and then another, it's like...
But you guys even had Joey at one point.
Yeah, we had a 3-car team for like a month or so. Yeah. That was when I got my first podium, was when he ran 9th that night and Roddy ran 3rd and I ran 2nd.
Yeah, right.
So we had 3 cars in the top 10 that night. So that was pretty cool. But, I mean, that was just one of many nights. You know, that was one of the better nights, I guess. But, it's a lot of work. It really, really is. And when something goes wrong, well, then you know, you got to have the inventory and stuff like that. And then when you're not running 3 cars and you just have, what are you doing with all your gear, you know? So it's just a massive...
Did anyone come on to mentor you? Like, did your dad mentor you, Rod, or did you just kind of go on your own in a way?
Yeah,
like Joey, and did he even give you advice or anything?
Yeah, definitely. But as for like a proper mentor, like a full-time thing, it was just your dad telling you did a good job or yelling at you. You know what I mean? And, you know, Roddy and I could relate on a lot of things, and there was a lot of things that we were just different driving styles. I remember I used to do quite well in qualifying, and Roddy was okay as well, I guess, but we had different driving styles. I remember when you first start sprint car racing, qualifying is the most daunting thing. Like, you're flat out for those couple of laps, and for 30 seconds on the track, you just don't breathe. Like, you like, you know, like it's so intense. And I remember being like, you know, like if there was qualifying in the format, like I was up the back. Yeah. And it was just did not look forward to it. And I talked to Roddy, hey, like, what do you do, sort of thing. He's like, man, you just don't lift. Yeah. And you're like, oh, all right. Like, you know, I wish there was a better answer to that. Yeah. And when I got better at qualifying, I remember there would be times that I'd be, you know, 2 or 3 tenths quicker than Roddy, and I'd be like, did you lift? And he'd be like, no, like, did not lift the entire time. And then I'd be like, I did. You know, like in the middle of the corner, I just didn't. As you would probably know, the most important thing in racing is your race lines. Yeah. And if I felt that I was compromising my race lines, then I needed to back off. Yeah. And he didn't. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, everyone. We've had Miki enter the set. Miki.
Dog is totally cool, eh? Honestly, you wouldn't even know.
She's trying to make herself a star of the show.
Do you want on the couch?
I don't know. I don't want to upset.
There you go.
Are you sure? Okay, all right.
It's all good.
Be a good girl. Sit.
There you go.
Bit of context. You asked me before the show, hey, do you like dogs? Yeah. And I was like, I do get a bit of a rash. I love dogs, but
she must know because she's staying about a centimetre away from you.
I like you, but just don't give me your allergy.
Stop trying to lick him, please.
She's good. So, but honestly, just different driving styles. To answer your question about who mentored me, again, Dad would be like, "Mate, you did a great job," or he'd be like, you know, expletives, you know, yelling at you, didn't want to talk to you. And then Roddy, again, different driving styles, and everyone you talk to has got a totally different way that they go about their racing. So that was really cool to spend some time with Joey, whether it was here in Australia racing with us or going to the States with him.
Yeah.
I crewed for him for about 6 weeks in our winter of
you crewed for Joey over in America?
Yeah, in the Outlaws, in 2014. So what's that, 9 years ago almost.
Yeah.
And I just loved really taking in how he goes about his racing. I think I've read a few books on the psychology of motorsport and that. And one thing I really realized, he's a professional race car driver, gets paid to go racing, and you can be so results based when really you should be process based.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, when I kind of read that. Not that he told me, but I just saw that naturally was how he went about his racing.
Yeah.
If you could win, you could do as good as you want, but if you didn't feel good or like you're feeling in the car, then you realize, hey, like there's nothing to really cheer about here. We got problems. We need to be realistic, Or you could run fifth. Again, you still want to win, but you could be like, no, it's all good. If you feel good, you're like, hey, don't worry, we're on the right track here. There's a lot to be positive about. So, there were nights where he did really well, and to know on the inner circle of what was going on at the time, I'm like, man, that guy can drive. Like, he's not happy right now, but he's making it work, So, I guess
so you raced in California in the off season here, did you, for a bit?
Yeah, 2015. I guess. Definitely.
So did you engineer or did you crew chief before you raced over there, or did you?
So again, I was having some decent seasons here, and I wanted to race elsewhere. And I remember Peter Murphy, who is a Sydney-born guy who lives in the States now.
Yep.
I know Stu's spoken about him on his podcast. He's a promoter now.
Yeah. Your family's close with the Murphys, aren't they?
Close, a little bit with Pete over the years, I guess. Dad was close with him. But he'd come out here to do some commentary and stuff here in Sydney, and I made, I guess, friends with him myself, and said, hey, like if there's any opportunities over there, I'd love to race over there, because I was always the one, I guess, pushing my career as far as I was the one that wanted to, see where it could go, because I was the one that believed in myself, I guess, more than anyone.
Yep.
And he messaged me one day. I remember being our race shop, and he messaged me and said, okay, here's how it's going to work. This is what it's going to cost, and these are the races we could do and that. And I was like, oh, shit, like he got back to me. I didn't really think, it was just a little while later too. So we were pretty fortunate to make it happen in 2015, and it was a great experience. And the way we worked it out was we would race in California, which is, just one flight over there.
Yep.
Flying straight into Cali, and then race for a month, do as many races as we could fit, whether it was a 410, which is 410 cubic inch, which is the full-blown engines.
Yep.
Or 360s, which, I mean, is a whole nother topic, but they're just a smaller engine. I don't know why.
How come they're not anymore. They're not pop. Do they still race in America but not here?
They still race here, not in Sydney. They race in WA. They race in South Australia, Victoria.
Why do they never take off here?
I don't know. We had 372s before they got 410s, which is what the Outlaws run. Was what got made massive by Brian Healy, the promoter here in Sydney at the time. And that's what brought 410s to Australia. So anything kind of before then in early 2000s, all the way before that was 372s.
Yeah.
The full-blown, all the, the big races and stuff you hear about, they're not a full-blown sprint car in comparison to what the Outlaws run. So now we run, I mean, there are still a few differences and stuff. But as for engines, we run 410 engines just like the Outlaws do. So we have 360s here in Australia. We have them. They are there in the States, but it's honestly like, imagine putting a tiny little restrictor in a supercar and having a different category. You're like, why not just run them all as the same thing?
It'd be like Super 2 being restricted, I guess.
It was. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but it'd be something like that. And it was like, but they're totally different.
The way they drive? Yeah.
Well, no. Honestly, I drove a 360 in the States, and that was the only time I've ever driven a 360 was in the States, because they have like two. And then, I mean, California struggles a little bit with numbers and stuff, and it's like, well, you guys are like kind of being diluted, like spread out across two categories.
Yep.
It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't, to put it in a nutshell, it just doesn't make sense to have a class that is so close. It's like, just get rid of it and just have all 410s and be done with it. Like the 410s aren't going back to 360s. You know?
Yeah. So you reckon get rid of it and just have them, everyone, that does make sense
it's
though.
Just, I think it will happen eventually actually.
Yeah.
It'll be something that does happen because it just, it doesn't make sense. I drove a 360 for the first time at a track that Peter now actually promotes in Hanford in California. And I remember coming into a corner. So with a Sprintcar, like on the track, I guess it's a little bit like asphalt. Asphalt just doesn't seem to have these vast differences. You've got like the race line where it's grippy and then you have the marbles and stuff. But with a clay, Sprintcar track, there's like, different areas. There could be like what we call grease, like a bit of slop, like it's, a bit wet, like almost like a puddle, I guess. Yeah. And then you've got bits that are slick or got a lot of moisture. You got a cushion, there's bits with rubber, all these different parts to a racetrack. And I remember coming into turn 1 at Hanford and I remember the car just pushing like understeering coming into the corner and drifting up track. And with a Sprintcar, they got so much power that you can, depending on the conditions, you can give it a bit of gas and pop the rear wheels, spin them up, and help rotate the car. And I remember coming into the corner and I'm like trying that technique, come into the corner, flick the car left, and pop the wheels and get my car to rotate so that I can turn through the corner, not understeer. And I remember I couldn't do that. And then it clicked in my head after like a lap or two. I was like, oh yeah, this is a 360. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have that extra little bit that helps you to do those sort of things to an extent. So honestly, driving a Sprintcar is the coolest thing ever. And a 410 just got that last little bit that scares the shit out of you. If it was 360s were the big class, it was like, well, let's just do that. But it's just, to answer your question, there's just no point of having
a bit off topic here. Do you know who the keyboard racer is?
Yes.
You do? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I wish there was a cool answer, but it's just a few guys that just like riding shit.
Oh, so it's a few guys together, not one person.
See, we're trying to narrow down on this.
Yeah, honestly.
Are they in the Sprintcar, like,
are they a
community? Are they actually like the drivers or the mechanics, or are they just total fans?
Yeah, I don't care enough to not like say it, but you don't need to go into detail who it is or anything, but it's just 3 guys who are in the sport, just like
having banter.
Imagine you doing it about, asphalt. It's 3 guys who are definitely very involved.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Driving? Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. I think no.
No.
You know what? To answer your question, it may not be just these 3 guys. That's how much I know. And I only found out recently, actually.
Yeah.
But it's just. Yeah.
It's like discovering the Batman.
Yeah, I'm like,
honestly, they do a great job. It is hilarious.
Yeah.
They actually, I was in Perth a couple of weeks ago, and one of the guys goes, hey, here's a magazine.
Oh, so they gave you a magazine?
Yeah, it's the one that they brought out for Warrnambool, which is the 2 weeks before.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, cool, like, thanks. Like, obviously it's you sort of
thing,
But I know a couple other guys. I get sent stuff by one guy, before it goes out, like sometimes, and I'm like, you're obviously involved, you know what I mean? And then he'll say stuff like, oh, we're gonna do this or something. So again, I know it's definitely, and there's too much work goes into what they do with like a magazine.
They do a full magazine, so it's
like just a one-off thing.
Okay.
Like for the year.
Gotcha.
But they rip me off and stuff. And this one guy I talked to is like, hey, can we like bag you out? And I'm like, man, like, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, if there's people who don't give a shit, like I'm at the top of that list. Like, please, I'd be the first person to laugh. I'm like, let me know if you need some content. You know what I mean? Because like on me, rip into me as much as you want. I don't care. So, there's again knowing what you do and.
Yeah, they don't have that in tar racing. That's the funny. That's what makes your community great, though. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like straight away, Brooke's like, "Oh, have you seen what the keyboard race post?" You know what I mean? Like we didn't have that.
There's some stuff that like you probably don't understand. Even I
Yeah,
don't
I know.
understand.
I was going to say so that today. I said to him, we were looking at. I think it was during the classic. We were watching it, and he was putting some funny shit up, like those. What was it? The guys jumping out of planes or whatever.
Oh no, that was the national.
That was the national. Sorry, that was pretty funny. His comment about that and the music choices and stuff. I was like, yeah, he's on point. They're on point here. Whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
But there are some. I said to Dan, I feel like I'd have to be in the know or something for this joke because I don't know. But you don't care. You know, there's things you go, yeah, obviously that doesn't apply to me. Next. Yeah.
I'd love to build Sprintcar Hub one day to where it's like maybe like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
To like we can all bring all our ideas together. And like I don't get that. It's like, oh, it's right. This is what it means. Oh yeah, that's great. You know, post that.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, it's like if you guys don't know or get something, it's like, well, you're not going to come up with it. So it's a few guys who are obviously very witty and honestly, for your show, it's like so irrelevant to say who they are. It's just names, really. But it's they do a great
They pick
job.
on you and Matt Dumsey. But like I've seen the video with the bread thing. The bread thing with Matt Dumsey by far is the funniest.
don't even know it.
I haven't even seen it. Okay.
Was it recent?
No, it was a while ago.
Okay. Honestly, like I get sent some stuff. Like there was a picture that I had my buddy Matt take of me.
Yeah.
Because we have a partnership with Claperview.
Yeah, I want to know about this. Yeah.
And we go to Toowoomba. And they've set up a little room for me with a whiteboard that I can explain some things. That's
I've seen that. That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. So I had him take a photo of me, like, hey, like check this out. Well, then I'm writing on the whiteboard for one of the other photos, and they've just like cleared it, and like everyone's sending examples of what it would be. My brother jumped on it, like and if I wasn't the guy, like if it was the roles reversed, like I'd love to like have that laugh. You know what I mean? But honestly, it's probably helping my brand more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% thinking that any publicity is good publicity, but for the most part, it's like, man, go for it. Like people are probably like, you might have, for example, I'm not saying you did, but you might have come across Sprintcar Hub because of something that you follow of theirs and saw that and go, where's Sprintcar Hub? And then next thing you know, you're a subscriber, you watch your videos, you buy some merchandise.
Yeah.
It's true because that's what we say with content creators. As long as everyone's doing it, and like you said, there's total negative content that you don't want. But when they're doing it in a piss take way, and that it can be helpful because that's how you do come across other people and different things. You'll then go and click on their links and go because if they include your link, then next minute you're there, and it's just this whole network opening up.
I'm almost offended that someone would ask, can we bag you out? You know what I mean? I'm like, have I not shown that you can do that enough? Like, do
you think I'm sensitive?
Yeah, like exactly. My first video, if you watch the very first video I ever did about my thoughts on the new Sydney Speedway, I ripped into myself, and most of the comments that like people love the video were like, I love how you ripped on yourself, and that's something I want to get back to.
Yeah, right. Oh, so you want to get back to that,
not just talk about yourself all the time, because then it's like, okay, you're just ripping on yourself because you get to talk about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, but it's something that was really one of the popular things about my first
As the
video.
show's gotten bigger though, like Brooke and I want to know, because as our show grows, with the trolls and stuff like that, do you just tend to just ignore it anyway and just let it sit in the comments and all that?
So there's a couple of different ways you can that I have found. I'm not going to sound like a full blown expert, but to me, if you've got 10 viewers and one of them is a troll or doesn't like it or is negative, right? That's 10%. Yeah. And then you got 100, well, that might be 10 people, And then when you've got 1,000 people or whatever, then if there's 1,000 people and there's 100 people that don't like it, it's still the same percentage. So first of all, don't let it get to you.
Yeah.
100%, I'm not going to say it gets to me, but it's definitely what you think about. Of those 10 comments, what's the one that you remember word for word? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the negative one that it gets you. One thing I will say is, honestly, a lot of the time it doesn't have to, like when they're just completely negative, you're like, well, you just want to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Trust me, I've been tempted.
No, what I mean is they want to say something because they're getting off on it. It wouldn't matter what you did. They're just like, can't wait to rip into you for something or anything. Just, clutching at straws, just find something that they can do to feel like, to complete their day. It was like, got to tick that box of, ranting on someone to make them feel bad. It's like, okay, whatever, it's all good. But I do get a lot of comments that you're like, as much as that's, I guess, bagging out my show or what I'm doing, you're like, I wasn't like, you either had an inkling about something like that or you're glad they brought it up. Yep. And also when there's someone else says the same thing, you're like, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, like I watched I've seen some of your stuff on Instagram and you're like, man, that's pro. And I look at my own stuff and be like, there's nowhere near like the video quality or the audio or again, talking. I've done that a million times, you know, and you honestly, you probably have.
Yeah.
You know, so what I'm getting at is don't take that as a criticism. Take it as like someone's noticed that. They might not have explained it to you in a very nice way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like that, like you're like, well, you could have just like privately messaged me or something.
Yeah.
But that's them getting off on bagging you out. I did a video once, Easter last year, where we were up at Toowoomba. It was Toowoomba, Brisbane, Toowoomba, and we missed the Brisbane night purposely because we wanted to work on getting my content out, you know, quickly. And I was like, I can't do 3 in a row. Let's just focus on those 2. And we did the first night and I was like, I want to add, again, you're trying to add 1% each time. And I was like, I really want to add in some music to help the video roll along and kind of give it a bit of a theme. Again, have best intentions to make it a better production.
Yep.
Again, don't really know what I'm doing, you know, and had a go. And I had music for some of it, like over the racing. And I got a few comments. Obviously, I wasn't going to get them before this, but after that video, I got a few comments like, F off the music.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like I've put in more effort and you don't like it, like the result of it. It's not that they don't like your effort.
Yeah.
It's that they want to hear the cars.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, you really want to hear like the whole time. And you're like, all right, like that's cool with me. So it's, some of them might have said F off the music, you know, that was a crap video. Or someone might have said, hey, I prefer like just listening to the cars.
Yeah.
So they both meant the same thing, but it's really, that's a problem with them, I guess. Like with the way
they've communicated.
You can say
it.
anything you want, but just do it respectfully, you know? But yeah, don't let it get to you. But I try to turn it into, again, like with anything, just try and turn it into a good thing. Oh, okay, like you didn't like that? Like how can I avoid that happening next time? Are they being like sincere and realistic, or are they really just trying to have a go? There will be things that I disagree with too. Like they'll say, even when they say that was your best video yet. And I don't know if that's them being nice or not, but I could not disagree more. Like some of our videos recently, Matt and I have these discussions. I'm like, we have totally moved away from why I started this. And I'm embarrassed at kind of, again, I'm just like my racing. I'll be my biggest critic. I'm like, no, we really need to get back to what we were doing here.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? How do you feel it's changed? So
I started, this is probably a different story, but I started sprint car racing for a couple of different reasons. It was me personally, needed something to do, and I also needed to, I felt like there was a market for it. Okay, we can go into depth on all that stuff later, I guess, or at another time, but I really, really felt that we needed to show the sport or the fans what wasn't being shown, what sprint car racing was really like. And another big aim for me, again, and I don't feel like I've really tapped into it much at all, is to introduce new fans to sprint car racing. You obviously know about Sprint Car Hub, and you don't know that much about sprint car racing. I mean that respectfully.
No, that's right. Because I came through when I met Dan over 2 years ago, and he introduced me to the sport through it, and then I think
basically I told her this is the fucking shit. You got to watch it.
Yeah, and then I've learned so much from him. Then I said I learned so much through yours, and then and that's true. That's how you learn, and that's how that's how people get brought into the sport. Because like I said to Dan, there's been years now where they've taken it off major TV, so people lost touch with it or didn't know about it. And when I was showing I was at Eastern Creek, I had heaps of people going to me, where are you? What is this sport? Like they didn't even know. And so then, it kind of starts to spread that way as well. Yeah.
So that for Sprint Car Hub, I'm like, I want to be the one-stop shop to show all that. What is a sprint car? Like, what is a sprint car? Like you can't tell me you wouldn't have watched that video. Yeah. If I made a video, what is a sprint car? Yeah. So again, without getting into too much of what I'm working on and want to do, like there's so much, like I've got pages, like notes in my phone and everywhere, like so much written down, videos, scripts and all stuff already written, but I also want to make it a good quality. Like if I want to talk about what is a sprint car, I could tell you right now and we could chop that up and that's your video.
Yeah.
But I really want to do the sport justice as well.
Yeah.
So it's a big, big aim of mine to for sprint car racing to grow it and show it to new fans, not just please the fans at the racetrack. But there's so much, to answer your question, there's so much that goes on at the racetrack that I really wanted to show the night of what goes on. Like tomorrow night we're filming with Brody Kostecki.
Yep.
And I want to show like how does he go about his racing? What's different? Like I don't need to explain what's different, but you can see by watching the videos, oh, that guy does this, that guy does that. His expectations are.
Do you think it's good
different.
the supercar guys are coming to the sport?
Oh,
Like,
it's
I know
great. Yeah. Like it's not like, but the cool thing about our sport is like really don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that they probably like that too.
Yeah.
SVG would, because he doesn't like the limelight like we hear.
Yeah,
Like in terms of all the,
That's a
the
great-
media especially. I said not so much the fans, I'd say. We've just heard that he's been burnt in the past, doesn't trust the media, so he keeps to himself a little bit more, which is understandable with the position he's in. So I would have thought I said to Dan when he was in New Zealand, he would have really enjoyed that. And I said it's also what we noticed, like, say when we were just at the Bathurst 12-hour, they're unattainable. A lot of the supercar drivers, you can't approach the garages. You can't sort of get to them so much. It's either signing times or this or that. And I get there's prep time for the racing and cars and all that, where it's just a different environment at Speedway. You can go down to the pits. You can talk to people. It's family orientated. It's just, it feels more like state racing, I guess.
That's why I
these
fell in
guys.
love with it as a fan, though. That's why I turned up to Parramatta every single weekend
There's
back
not
in
one
the day.
person at any sprint car event that you can't talk to.
Yeah.
They might not give you much time, but you can't. There's nothing stopping you walking up. Hey, good luck. Which that's all you really want.
Yeah.
I hate that our fan base probably feels anyway detached from sprint car racing when it's really so accessible. And the power of the internet and what I'm doing, I'm like, let's just connect the dots here.
Yeah.
Let's really maximize this. If I got to be perfectly honest, and this might come across slack, but I didn't want to do a podcast for a number of reasons, but I really felt like, someone else can do that. And I might end up, doing that.
Yeah.
But what is first and foremost, most important for me is to create something that is completely unique to our sport. I mean, how many different sports or industries have explanations on this stuff? What does sprint car racing have? We don't have it. And I guarantee you I'll be the guy to do it because I'm so passionate and can't wait to do it. And I don't try to pretend I'm an expert either. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know, which is probably not a good thing to say.
Yeah.
But it's 100% true. And there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And at the very least, I'm going to go get the answer. If you want to know what's it cost to own a sprint car, well, if I don't know that off the top of my head, well, I'm just going to go find out. And over time, you probably notice you've started to build up some contacts, some relationships, and things start to really roll on. And now, I mean, I've interviewed and spoken with and had cameras on cars of the best drivers in the world, anyone and everyone. Actually, the only reason I actually know Brody is last time I went to Toowoomba, he came up to me, "Hey, Toby, how you going, mate?" And I was like, I actually didn't know who he was.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And again, not going to make him out like he's some big superstar.
Yeah.
But he's an everyday dude. Cam Waters is, I'm sure Shane is, and everyone's an everyday dude. It's actually the fans who put them on a pedestal or in different tiers to, don't do that. Just treat them like normal.
Are they still using the concussion devices on the helmets now, or they're still going with that?
Yeah. So there's a lot. I think there's some more stuff that's meant to come out about that, and I've got some more stuff to put out about it as well. But at the moment, yeah.
Do you reckon they should move it? Do you like the thing on the helmet, or you reckon it should be a device on the car?
To answer your question, no, but I love that they're doing something about it. Be proactive. I guess they're trying to make out that they're being proactive, but the way they've gone about it, well, no, not 100%. And I'm not saying it's all bad. And it's also certainly not a personal thing either. Like some of the people that I've made look a bit ordinary in some of my videos, I've spoken to in public.
Yeah.
Since it's, and I'd imagine I was bagging out something that you were doing. Like it's not a personal thing. It might be, how you're going about it though.
Yeah, Alex Orr was on here and he was pretty blunt about what's happened and what his part in it and everything as well in testing the helmets. Like he's talked openly about it. But I think what we got down to is the fact, like you said, it just wasn't there. My big question was, because you see this in fight sports and everything, there's all different concussion rules and everything. And we were saying in it, what was their plan with these things? If you get 3 hits or you get a hit and it goes red, well, who makes the call? The doctor, this, but then they wipe their hands of it and then there's no medical call from there to say who's going to, whereas in fight sports, you get a certain amount of hits that you're out for a certain amount of time or something. There's more, I'd say, clearer cut rules, whereas there's not with what they were implementing with sprint cars. So that was the problem, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, there's a few different things. I mean, there's the implementation of it, like the process, the quality of the device, the involvement with drivers and teams, and just there's a lot of different areas of that people are questioning. And really, should something be forced on you if all that hasn't been worked out really well? Probably not.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing. But at the end of the day, if it was done 100% properly, you still question that's the implementation process. You still question the quality of it. So you've gone about it the right way, but it doesn't mean it's a good device. And even if it's a really good device, have they gone about it the right way?
Yeah.
So I think if it was a really, really good device and it all made sense, then you'd be like, hey, this just the way you went about it wasn't right, but let's push on with it.
Yeah. Were the medics though checking like when you had accidents back then on your rise?
Yeah.
Were they doing that back then for like concussion tests?
Yeah, do all those sort of checks. I've had a few wrecks where the thing is if you get in if you're in a big wreck in a sprint car and you're like, oh, I'm no good, man, like they go nuts, so that's what scares a lot of drivers to say something.
Yeah.
When you're a bit worried, I've only probably had one wreck where I've actually been worried after I stopped, and you still, and like there's different sorts of worry. Like, have you had a good knock, or is it like you can't move or feel your feet or something? Like that's they're all different issues. But I think also the first thing you think of is you want to show people that you're all right.
Yeah.
Especially if your family's watching, which they usually are. Whether they're at the track or online or however they're watching, you want to just be like, hey, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you would, if you go to get a checkup to the ambulance, they would do all those sorts of checks, and if you're feeling secondhand later on, then you'd go back or go to the hospital. I've been cleared before and been like, no, I should go to the hospital.
Yeah. You've had like fly there with Mitch Dumsney. He had a small accident, but that was his end of his career, really, wasn't it? Like, you don't really in sprint cars, it's awkward. Like the big crashes,
you never know.
You guys, it's crazy.
Really, you really never know what different accidents that I've seen. Obviously, people being killed. All the way down to big wrecks that nothing comes of. So it's whether it's spinal injuries or head injuries. There's a lot of that's life. That's racing. That's what happens. But I love that to get back to the concussion device. It's great that they're doing something. But just the way it's been implemented, and also and I don't want to hold back either. This is just me being completely honest. I don't hold back. Like I have no reason to. I just don't like how they've, again, talking about how you guys run a podcast and try and call things down the line. You try to, but you also got to be completely honest. And this is just me. I'm not holding back in my videos.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go
it's
mouthing
your opinion.
off. Yeah, I'm not going to go mouthing off at someone, because again, that's like when someone comments like a negative thing, you're like, hey, you haven't handled it that well. To me, the best way I can say how I feel is how I'm explaining it right now. Is I just don't like how it was implemented, and I don't agree with that process. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed up there, and I'm not a fan of the device for a number of different reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that just needs to be sorted out. And I think it will come out in time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually not mandatory pretty soon.
Yeah. What about, you were saying on one of your videos that the West Aussies, just to wrap up the podcast, we're coming to an end now.
Yeah, you're right. I'm good. Whatever.
Well, we can go for a while, but you were saying the West is doing just amazing things to sprint car racing that the East aren't. And then obviously you had recently, that's gone viral in a way, Matt Dumsney not being able to race because of a sticker. Is that because they're taking their racing a lot more professional, or is there a certain standard that they're setting? Or
that series put out a a statement today I saw it on Facebook anyway, was basically explaining how a lot of that stuff happened. As you know, you got to run the right tire, which is fair enough. You got to run the stickers because those guys sponsor the series, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't actually know. Again, maybe I should. I don't ever want Sprintcar Hub to be the news station.
Yeah.
I really don't care for it to be news.
Yeah. It's a bit like our podcast.
That's how we feel. We feel the same way. You want to be, how's the best way to put it? Is it?
It's content.
Yeah, I was going to say content creator, not a media outlet.
Yeah. That's probably a really good, because I've always been a bit unsure of where I'm heading.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good, but it's true. Like, I don't want to be this news outlet, at least not at the moment, because if we grow to get to a point where you know everything, then it's like, or can be on top of everything, then let's do that. But for starting out, I don't want to do that. So in that situation, I don't actually know the full ins and outs of it all. And for me, like, I really don't care. Like, it's such a non-story. But it's funny because I did a video, and I've spoken about this on one of my live streams a little while ago. I did a video for the previous Australian Sprintcar Championships at Archerfield, where Jock Goodyear and Jamie Veal got into an argument after the race.
Yeah, I like that, by the way.
And so that got a lot of attention from a lot of different people. And, you know, Jock didn't care, but Jamie hasn't spoken to me since about it. You know,
right.
Won't talk to me.
Yeah. Well, till now, even now.
Yeah. So, which is cool. That's how he's, reacted about it all. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different incidents that I guess, you got to know the ins and outs of before you can, I guess, comment on.
Yeah.
And I really don't know. I've messaged Matt, which, I'm glad, to be honest, I'm glad Matt said what he said about his sticker incident. That is, again, a non-story.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he also got disqualified. So, he might not like that, and the series might not like what I said about either of them. So it's like, at the end of the day, if they're the rules and he didn't folloh them, well, that's the way it goes.
He's still over there, isn't he, in WA?
I think he would have come back now.
Okay. Because he said it was unfinished business.
Yeah, I think he's going back, which is fair enough because there'll be a race on pretty soon, I think. But yeah, I mean, like, the way they go about racing in Perth, they have to give you an idea, I was always told to speak in facts. The first time I ever commentated at Parramatta was Chad Nalon was next to me, and he's like, man, just speak in facts. Don't just go, like, just talk rubbish.
Yeah.
Speak with truths. And at the end of the day, to give you some facts, is the Maddington Toyota Sprint Car Series is the highest paying Sprint Car Series in Australia currently.
Yeah, okay.
And it's just because they're so isolated that they're very much on their own, and they've done a very good job at making their own thing relevant. A lot of people have worked hard behind the scenes, like Jeff Kendrick, Jason Kendrick's old man.
Yep.
I don't 100% know who's involved with making that series work, but you've also got the broadcast production side.
Yeah.
You've got a speedway that is the most beautiful speedway probably I've ever been to. Including
what? In America and here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of American tracks aren't actually nice.
Yeah.
They're just good racing.
Yeah.
But like Knoxville is a county fairgrounds place that's, puts on great racing, but it's not, like, it's big and got a lot of grandstands and stuff. But I mean, it's got a lot of nicer areas about it than Perth. But as a whole, the whole complex of the Perth Motorplex is just incredible. And it's something like Did
you ever race there?
No. I never went there until this last season to do a video with the Crickies. So, honestly, it's incredible. And like, so basically the big money series, they can put money into their series and get sponsors for it because they've got something to present to sponsors with a track. And then because they've got all that, it makes sense to have TV and the production side of it all. It's all just makes sense.
Do you reckon the East could do that though? Because like we could like to the World Series. You reckon that should come back?
But could they do that now that Motorsport Australia's sort of they're under that now, that banner, which says that they're supposed to now get more funding and everything under that, eligible for.
I think it's just really they create a bit of a pathway to speak to government and stuff. Because that's been a big problem of ours, is we're such a rogue sport that we're not really intertwined with the rest of motorsport. So it's kind of like you're just some hillbillies doing your own thing, and at the end of the day, really not. It just appears that way. Just because you're playing in dirt, it looks like it's hillbilly, but it's really not. So I think from what I know, the Motorsport Australia thing, I think over time they'll probably be really good in a lot of ways and maybe bad, for people who can't see the podcast. I put that with quotation marks because you might, in the short term, you might think, I've got to spend more money because my gear is no longer certified or something. But it just will bring Speedway as a whole to a higher standard. Yeah. I think that's what will happen. Could be wrong. Yeah. And I think the Motorsport Australia thing will be a good thing for us. But to answer your question about World Series, that should definitely come back. It should already be back, but it's not back because I don't think they really want it to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Speedway
Australia own and run World Series. Yep. And I mean, to me, the name's pretty stupid anyway, but like that's an easy fix.
But they could reinvent it, I guess.
Rebadge it. Just I honestly can't see it happening. I can't see them bringing it back because it just doesn't make sense for them to do it financially. Yeah. To do that, and our sport is so, we could talk all night about this, but our sport is so fragmented and in so many pieces that we're not all working together. We've got incredible amounts of money being spent. Yeah. We've got incredible facilities and races that go on. If you watch the classic, you would have thought that was awesome. Yeah. Tell me it wasn't awesome.
I was going to say, Speedway sounds very much like Muay Thai in Australia. And that's what they talk about a lot, that they're very disjointed and not fitting under a banner. That's why they can't put together proper, I guess, the fights and the series and stuff under it. And it's not done in a way, say, the UFC's done. But that's the same thing I'm seeing with Speedway, is in a similar way. But it's in saying that it seems to be growing and changing in a different rate. Yeah.
I think so. Has it gotten more professional since you've basically retired? Or you reckon it's basically
more
the same?
Professional. The thing is when you're so close to something, you've actually got your blinkers on.
Yeah, okay.
You think you might think something is huge because you're so entrenched in it.
Yeah.
When really, if you were to step away, you're like, wow, that's such a, splash in the ocean of what's really going on. So I think being around so close to racing now over the last 15 months or plus of doing at the track videos. All of a sudden you just think, Sprintcar racing's buzzing and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I'm probably a relevant guest right now because the last 2 months or, 10 weeks or whatever of Sprintcar racing is huge for Australian Sprintcar racing. Yeah. But if you're in America, you're like, Sprintcar racing is just such a, it's dead right now and we're waiting for the season to start up over there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's all about perspective, I think.
Well, the reason I brought that up is because James McFadden and the Napa deal came about with the Brad Sweet thing, and that was just promoted to the general public. Do you know what I mean? And people who played the World of Outlaws game that just come back out again know James McFadden purely because of the game. And do you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Yeah, like it's just been brought back to the world. Like, I remember talking to you back when we were racing karts, and the first World of Outlaws game came out on PlayStation, and now years on, it's kind of brought sprint car racing internationally back onto the scene. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I fell in love with it purely a bit more because of the game that I played on PlayStation. Yeah.
So I mean, there's great opportunities there. From what I've been told, was Napa is seriously considering getting heavily involved with speedway racing, sprint car racing. Yeah. And we're not in a position. I mean, not that we shouldn't do everything that we can to have like those sort of corporate partners involved, but we're not in a position to really present the most professional thing. Like there's a lot of, our sport is so fragmented and there's a lot of things we've got to work out to then go to have them get involved and stay involved. Yeah. There's so many problems with between promoters of tracks, problems with presenting Speedway on TV. At the end of the day, we need to be on TV. Yep. With race nights running, having one ambulance and then someone in the crowd gets hurt and next thing you know, we're delayed for 2 hours because they're attending to them. Yep. You've got formats that people can't understand. You can't tell me you understood what was going on at the Classic.
Oh, that's
you know,
my commentator over here.
That's what I mean. But you shouldn't need that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
The best way I can explain it is you should be at the end of a night, tell me how the format works.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And not because it's complicated, but because it's so simple.
I remember you were doing it on the whiteboard, weren't you? And you were putting up all the different things and everything.
Yeah.
I remember looking at it going, Jesus, this looks like a maths class.
It should, exactly. It should be so simple. So what I'm getting at is there are a plethora of different reasons or problem areas for the sport, and we need to slowly go through each one and basically present a business case to potential sponsors. The fact that sponsors are coming to you, that's getting kissed on the dick. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what you could only dream of.
Yeah.
Make it work. So the fact that we're not in a position to actually do the right thing by them and actually, I mean, sure, you could take their money for the time being and that, but I mean, I've had sponsors approach me for my my show. And it's like, I really want to get better at other stuff before I get involved with you know, taking your money. You know what I mean? Because, I just, getting back to it, as a sport, we're not, we should have a national series. We should sort out all these problems, have the teams on board, the promoters working together, and have a combined, consistent package that we're putting to people, whether it's your fans, existing fans, new fans, you know, sponsors, all that. And then we can all really move forward. It's all there. That's what's frustrating is there's all these ingredients and they're just not in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like they're scattered around. You know, that's probably the best way I can explain it. But I mean, for me, when I was only talking about this to someone yesterday is when there's a weakness or a downside to something, I see a lot of opportunity as well. And I think for me to be able to explain a lot of this and push people in the right direction as a content creator, like it's a dream.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Toby, you've basically reached past the 2 hour mark, which happens with most podcasts.
I don't know what time we started.
It's
good.
You never said we started, so I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I think this is it.
I was gonna say, are we rolling? But I know what Brooke's like. She's like, when she's pretty onto it now. She's just straight.
I missed the clap, and I was like, we'll figure it out.
There you go.
I guess we started. What time do we really start? Do you even know that before we get into the Fast Five?
Just after 6, I think.
There you go.
There's a Fast Five.
There's a you haven't heard of the Fast Five?
Well, I don't remember hearing it on Stu's one.
Oh no, we didn't do it on Stu's. We missed that one.
So the Fast Five is basically basically a game show, Tobes. You get Brooke can entail us on the.
So if you get more than 3 out of 5 right, you get a good prize.
Correct answers, not an opinion thing.
No, it's like a what do you call it?
Quiz.
Well, you get a multiple choice as well. So you get an A, B, C, or D to pick from. And it's all yours or Sprintcars. Yeah. So we keep it all around what people do. Yeah.
Based on the person themselves. Yeah. So basically, think of it like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but basically you still get a prize, but it either goes really shit, really shit or really good, depending on how you answer these questions. Basically, it's just 5 questions. I'll send you a few, and Brooke will finish the 5 off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the first one is, you should know most of these because you're the stats man. You love sprint cars, we're thinking at the start that you should get 5 out of 5 to get you in perspective. No pressure. To put it, Brooke always gives me the questionnaires before we send to the guests. So I get 0 out of 5. So you should get better than
Really?
0. Yeah, I was a bit off.
As I try to explain in the podcast, man, like I'm really don't know everything, so don't
just
have
pick
high
it. You get to pick. You got a
If
1
it's
out of 4
multiple
chance.
choice, we'll be sweet.
You get thrown at a wall. So the first one is, and it's a multiple choice one. Everyone's a multiple choice. So who won the 2016 Scott Daly Challenge? Was it? You might know this, but was it A, Jamie Veal?
Jamie Veal.
Was it, you reckon you're going to stick to it already?
Yeah, that was the one. I know who was on the podium. If you want me to tell you it.
Oh, hang on.
I know there was Kyle Hurst and Max Dumsey on the podium, and I think I ran 4th.
Yeah.
So, hang on, but it told us when I looked it up. Scott Daly.
Wait, let me just get through the multiple choice first.
Okay, all right.
It was A, Jamie Veal, B, Kerry Madsen, C, Stephen Lyons, and D, Craig Kinzer.
So it was definitely Jamie Veal.
In 2016 or 2015? Because I said Jamie Veal too.
I know, but 2016.
Yeah. So I said Veal too, and
All right, let me think now. You got me
Was
confused.
it Veal? Oh, no. See, I got confused too. It's A, Veal, B, Madsen, C, Stephen Lyons, or D, Craig Kinzer. 2016.
Nah. Lyons hasn't won it.
No.
And Kinzer hasn't won it.
Yeah.
And Kerry, the thing is he was the top points
Yep.
and he went to start out of 19th.
Yeah, I remember that.
If this is the year.
Yeah.
So that's my actual issue is actually what year was
The
it?
points.
So the 17 was, because 2017 was more, I have to go off when I was racing because I would have been racing it.
Yeah.
I have the year of that was, my last year was 2017, I think.
Mm.
And then, so it would have been a year before. And the year before I finished racing was when I ran fourth. And I remember Jamie and Max. This is a long answer, by the way.
Yeah.
I honestly, if it's Kerry, I'd be shocked. But
It is Kerry.
It is Kerry.
really?
It's Kerry.
Yeah.
What year did I have? 2015.
Yeah, Veal. I said the same
2016
thing.
was
Yeah, I
Kerry.
said 2015, Jamie Veal.
Okay, so one of the years he started from. Okay, I hate that, but but because one of the years he went to 19th and he made it up to like I don't know 10th or something like that.
Yeah.
I actually can't believe that because I knew his
thought-
top points.
Yeah. I said the same thing. I said Jamie Veal. So what? It's 0.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question though, because we had this in the questions. Jamie Veal, why did he never race for Outlaws?
Yeah. Why didn't you ever race in America?
He raced in America.
Oh, he has?
Has he
Okay.
raced for the Outlaws?
Yeah. He ran second or third at Chico in California. Search that in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, okay.
So there you
So
go,
he has
Dan.
raced in-
Which is a big, like, it's actually not that big of a race, which they're trying to build it up now. That's the track that Larson and Sweet and Kobe Copeland run.
Yep.
But he it's an event that I raced at. That was what I raced at in California, not that year, but he's actually run, I think it was second or third at an outlaw race.
Yeah, right.
And he's led laps too. Like
Yeah.
don't worry,
Yeah.
Jamie in his prime, like those years,
Yep.
Yeah.
was,
Oh, he was peddling
was
back.
the shit.
Yeah.
So
There's the mid-
again, just told you before that he doesn't really talk to me anymore, but it's totally to the side to me. Like Jamie racing
Yep.
with him when he was, in his really, really good years, and he still is incredibly good. Like, man, he was tough.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I thought it was Jamie Veal too, Brooke.
I
but
think,
it is what it is.
I honestly think the stats are wrong or something because I can't believe I got that wrong. Yeah.
Should we give a 0.5 on that?
Nah.
No,
it's all good.
leave it
Let's
at
move
0.
on.
We've got 4 to go.
I got to be
All right,
strict
we've
with
got
myself.
4 to go. You can win a good prize.
That was
though.
honestly, I knew it wasn't lines or.
All right. Question number 2. Actually, Brooke, do you want to give this on?
All right. So in what year did Brooke Tatnall become the first Australian to win a World of Outlaw feature? So,
I actually don't know this.
so is it, we'll have a
okay,
guess.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
give you 4. I'll give you 4
Multiple choice.
options. You
Hopefully
got
the others.
A 2001, B 2002, C 2003, or D 2004.
That's rude. Like you should have them like a lot further apart. Tell me like 1990 something. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
So honestly, I thought. Let me think. You know what? I'm actually tempted to say 2001 because I know that. You're laughing.
Dan gave you a
I've said the same questions as you, by the way. So
Is that right?
03.
03,
Really?
2003.
Yeah.
I honestly, I knew it was,
I thought it was 01 too because he was in his prime then.
Yeah, because, actually, it's a bit silly because I know the Outlaw game came out in 2002 and I was thinking it would be around that year. So now that I think about it, I don't know why I thought it was 2000. I think it was because I know Brooke raced at Bristol and they raced in Bristol in 2000 and 2001.
Yeah.
So I was thinking Brooke would have been on a full-time Outlaw deal and, in a good ride then. So, don't know.
All right, no, next one.
That was standing for a little while too. Like for him to be the first Australian driver to win an outlaw race was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I think since then,
Oh, so he was the first one to win a World of Outlaw feature.
a first
Yeah.
Aussie, yeah.
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 Isn't that what the question was?
Yep, that was the question. Yeah.
The first, yeah. So, I mean, other than I think Kerry is now for only a few years ago, they started counting the preliminary features
Yep.
as towards your feature win tally with the Outlaws.
Yeah, okay.
And then obviously a lot of drivers all bumped up their numbers.
Yeah.
And I think Kerry's got the most, which is I mean, now it's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
because our equipment and our quality of drivers is right up there.
Yeah. Okay, question number 3. This is actually really good. You're actually getting into detail about this question because most people just skip through
I'm
it.
trying to probably justify because I get the answer wrong. Trying to be like,
but you know your shit. It's just
Yeah,
a
you do
little
know your
off.
shit, though. Yeah. Okay, question number 3. Who won the 2019 World of Outlaws Kevin Goberick Rookie of the Year award? Was it A, James McFadden, B, Ian Madsen, who I want to get on the show eventually, C, Carson Macedo, who I also want to get on the show eventually, or D, Wayne Johnson? I'll go over that again. Who was the 2019 Rookie of the Year, or who won it? Was it McFadden, Madsen, Macedo, or Wayne Johnson?
I want to say Carson because the reason is I don't know what year he started with the Outlaws. That seems almost too late. I don't know.
Is that your answer?
Hold on, what were the? I know Wayne Johnson, which seems odd. You would have just picked people around that year, so that's what you've tried to.
I just think don't second guess yourself.
Don't second guess yourself. we'll give you this
honestly,
one.
the only reason I said Carson was because I know he's only raced for a handful of years.
Yep.
And obviously, the other guys that you would have mentioned would have been around that. But COVID being 2020, I'm like, no, COVID. James McFadden was the one that was
Yep.
They actually allowed him, again, giving a little bit of context around it.
Yep.
They actually gave him an allowance to, when he turned up, he would still compete for the Rookie of the Year, even though he didn't do the full year.
Yeah, okay.
I think that was 2020. Yeah, so Carson, I know, would have been around then because he's only been running it for 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And I know, again, I raced with him in 2016 when he actually ran a full USAC championship, the midget championship, which is pretty crazy. And then I know he would have raced, 17 and 18 around the Midwest and stuff like his brother Cole's doing right now. So
right.
hopefully we see Cole on the Outlaw Tour full time as well.
Yeah, that would be
He's
cool.
a good dude.
Yeah. Okay, question number 4. National Association of Speedway Racing, NASA, was rebranded to become Speedway Australia in what
Don't
year?
ask me. Oh, God.
Was it A, 2008?
It's going to be around 2010s because, hold on, go ahead.
2008, 2009, 2010, or was it 2011?
Okay, so I, again, try to work
I said
out my
08, by the way.
Okay, yeah. So the best way I can work it out is I think I had a NASA license as a junior mechanic. That was to get into the pits, and you can only get that from 14, which would have been 2008.
Yep.
And that was definitely a NASA license, not a Speedway Australia license. So I reckon it's got to be 10. Honestly, don't know. It had to. Yeah. I'm going to say 2011. Was that? That was
yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
2 out of 4.
Because I started
50%
racing in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And I want to say that, my first license had to be a NASA license. So unless it was if you did 2012, I might have said that, honestly.
Yeah. Well, this is the deciding number 5.
Oh,
This means you get a good
You
prize.
need to spread them out. That last one could have been 1991, 2001. And I'd be like, this one, bro. The fact that they're so close.
We're going to challenge people.
Yeah, honestly, I've got to get it so spot on.
Okay, this one decides if you get a good prize or a shit prize, Tobes. Who holds the 6-lap record at Premier Speedway? Was it A?
Seriously?
Was it
I'm getting
A?
a shit
I
prize.
was on the website going, there's the 1-lapper, the 4-lapper. There was the 40-lapper in that. And I go, no, I'll go for the 6-lapper. That should be solid, right?
No one knows that shit, bro. Unless you're that guy.
I was like, go there.
Was it A, Max Stumsney, B, Steve Kinzer, C, Donny Schatz, or D, Jamie Veal? Who holds the 6
Veal's
lap?
definitely got the 1 lap. It's the 9.
I said that. That was 1 lap
8
though.
or 997 or something. Which was only a few years ago. Steve Kinzer, Johnny Shot. You know what? I'm gonna go Max because you've done that many laps. Really?
You did it.
3 out of 5.
Do you know Max is the old school Jamie Veal at Warrnambool? Warrnambool, it's his home. So Max has done that many laps. I really don't need a prize, but I'll take it.
Yeah, it's a good prize.
Really?
I was praying you were going to get a good prize because we just bought this today.
I hope it's diesel because I'll eat them.
Yeah.
It's an hour
Sweet
and a half
chocolate
on the
for
way home.
anyone listening.
Thanks, man. You didn't have to, eh?
Nah, you won.
I really
Honestly,
appreciate you
that's
coming
awesome.
out, eh? Like,
Honestly,
Yeah.
there wasn't much of a fast 5. Sorry I dragged it
No,
out.
that was
no,
good.
that was good. No.
But yeah, honestly, I can see how much effort you guys put into this. Girls, sorry. But it's awesome. You guys are doing a great job. Keep pushing on with it. Don't listen to trolls. Actually know that you guys have got a sweet setup. Like it's cool and you go about it the right way. Like I heard Stu say in his podcast, like you guys actually make it as professional as you probably could be.
Yeah.
I didn't reply to your email. I only really read it to like today to go, oh, I don't want to let these people down. And then when it's got questions, send them a week before. I'm like, well, I missed that.
End of the day, we're still race car drivers. So as soon as you said, oh, it's all sweat, I was like, trust me, man, we'll be sweat. It'll be a chill. And the reason I didn't kind of clap you in or just let you know that we're rolling is because we just had a good convo from the start.
Perfect.
Do you know what I mean?
Perfect. Yeah. I honestly think that you've done, that was a cool thing. Because I was like, do I ask if we started? And I'm like, no, this is them trying to get you to do what you get other people to do.
Exactly.
Because I go, I'll chat to them for like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, you ready to start? And they're like, yeah, cool. And I'm like, all right, I'll press record because it's usually on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, oh, hi. You know, like, and it just sounds shit house. And so you guys went about it.
We were
right
talking
way.
about Jace McAlpine and how the way he does Gypsy Tales. And I thought, you know what, tonight I'm going to do the way he does it. And he just starts chatting. And like, I was like, you were straight into it. You were telling us, Brooke and I, all sorts of stuff.
I could tell there was a little, like, it slowly went into it, but I was like, all right, no.
Yeah, because we don't use all the front up. When people listen to this, it's going to start in where it starts naturally taking off. But
I understand why you wanted me to wear the cans now because I was like, oh, we're actually
Cool. Cheers.
No, thank you so much for coming on, I got to say. And for everyone, like we'll put all the links in the show notes and that to Sprintcar Hub, especially anyone who hasn't listened to it because we have a lot of TAR listeners. Yeah. So it'll be for everyone to go check it out and to get more into Speedway who isn't. And then for everyone who is, if they're not there, they should be there. But no, thank you for all the content I was going to say that you create because, you know, it's teaching all of us. And the more that you said you've got coming, it's just exciting.
Actually, that means a lot because we all put in a lot of effort and when I meet fans at the racetrack or again, the people I just spoke about within the industry that you respect a lot or anyone really, when they come up to you and say, thank you so much for what you do, all those nights, like it is 8:30 at night here on a Friday night and you're probably like, why are we doing this? You know? And there's so many nights where I'll stay up till whatever time in the morning at home, you know, on my laptop trying to grind out, make a video for that someone's going to see, you know, later on or content. And you think, what am I doing with my life? Like, this is just silly, you know?
We go through
the same feelings and that you go through.
When it's out, you feel like there's a little bit of reward.
Yeah.
Some more than others. Sometimes it blows up and you're like, how good was that?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you're just like, oh, well, that's the way it goes. But honestly, for you to say that means a lot because when fans come up and say, thank you. You know, I've had people say, you know, I visit my dad, you know, once a month and the one thing he likes to do is watch your videos. So we sit down and watch them and you're just like.
That's awesome to hear, hey.
Like you would never have even thought that. Make it up. And this is someone who's meeting you at the fan day at Warrnambool and they're from Perth.
Yeah.
And you're just like, are you kidding? Like that blows your mind. And you're just like, okay, you need to remind yourself of that stuff every time. You think of how many views you get. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I might get 5,000 views. I might get 70,000 views on a video. You know,
we're still aiming for the big views.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is you either way, you don't know 5,000 people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's it.
So there are you might, and you're not getting 5,000 comments or 5,000 likes or shares or whatever, but there are legitimately just you know, unless someone listens to it more than once, there are legitimately that many people listening. And you need to tell yourself, hey, someone's clicked on this. Someone's giving you their time. They actually appreciate it. So, definitely push on with it. And I appreciate you saying thank you because, it's a very, very time-consuming to put content together.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Toby.
Thank you. Cheers.